Okay. Welcome to the San Mateo Coastside Design Review Committee meeting. The Design Review Committee, as established in the zoning regulations, is appointed by the Board of Supervisors. Today is Thursday, July 8, 2021. This hearing consists of 5 projects. This meeting is being audio recorded. There are 2 opportunities for the public to speak, including oral communications for matters not on the agenda and a separate public comment session for each project on the agenda. Please review the agenda to identify which item you wish to speak on and the time of that item. Excuse me. The chair will open the public comment sessions during the public comment period and for each item on the regular agenda. I will first read comments received before the meeting into the record. Then I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raise hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an agenda item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number called, I will prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking. I will then ask you to state your name, address, and email address for the record. For those joining by phone, pressing *6 will mute or unmute your microphone. The Design Review Committee's decision for items 1, 2, and 3, if any, will only be a recommendation regarding project compliance and not the final decisions of the project, the decisions of which will take place at a later date. The Design Review Committee's decision for items 4 and 5, if any, are appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 working days by filing an appeal and paying the applicable filing fee. If you would like to file an appeal, please contact the project planner whose email address is listed on the agenda under their respective project. The appeal will be accepted by 5 p.m. on July 22, 2021. Depending on the scale and scope of changes, continued projects may be placed on next month's agenda if revisions are submitted to the county by end of business Friday, July 16. Applicants should note that continuance letters may not be available by that date and are encouraged to take note of the committee's feedback. The next Coastside Design Review meeting will be on August 12, 2021. Item 1 of the agenda is roll call. Katie Costu.
Here.
Rebecca Catkin.
Here.
Christopher Johnson. Oh, well, Christopher Johnson is here. Beverly Garrity.
Here.
Doug Machado is not present. Mark Stegmeyer is not present. Linda Montalto Patterson is not present. John Studman isn't present. Nancy Steger.
Here.
With that, I turn it over to the chair.
Okay, I'm on a different computer that has high security, so hopefully I will not get kicked off. And here we go. All right, let's start with the chairperson's report. All right, we can probably go through this pretty quickly. First of all, are there any edits from anyone? I received Camille's edits.
I don't have any. I don't have any.
No. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, demonstration of scale, story polls. The question is, are we still on track for the first public hearing projected for August 2021?
I'm trying to keep us on track for the end of August 2021. I'm currently working with Supervisor Horsley's office as well as the Office of Community Affairs and engaging our facilitation consultant. Once we nail down the specifics of the outreach strategy, we're hoping to have something public online and get everything moving forward. I am still optimistic that we can do by the end of next month, but by next month's meeting, I'll let you know if that changes somehow. But at some point soon, there should be some sort of public outreach that's announced.
Mm-hmm. Okay, does CDRC get a preview of what it is you'll be presenting to the public?
Sure. Next meeting, if that's dialed in by then, by all the parties involved, then I can share with you what we've got cooking in the works.
Okay.
Thanks, Ramon.
Yes. So just to be accurate, I'm going to note that the CDRC to preview drafts for use in the public hearing. Is that accurate?
It would be a draft of the public outreach strategy. So that would be obviously
strategy, not content.
If the content is already dialed in by then I'll share that with you too. But
Great.
this assumes not only the meeting, but any other surveys we might put out, any other mailers we might put out. It just depends what the final strategy is determined by the parties involved.
Sure.
Mhm.
Okay, great. I just wanted to be accurate about that. All right, design standards update. Nothing to change there. Do you know how many projects we'll have next month?
I don't have an exact number for you yet. So far, I know of 3 projects. 2 are mine, 1 is Camille's. We scoped staff yesterday. They have until next Wednesday to respond, but I anticipate we'll get at least 1 more from a staff member, just based on what I've been hearing around the office.
All right, so if it's okay with the CDRC, I think we're looking for September, October to start working through our end of the work plan. How does that sound?
I think that makes sense. I know that we were talking previously about how the summer months are kind of difficult to get availability from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So especially with the packed agendas, it's definitely helpful. Who knows if they'll continue to be packed.
All right, great.
So through the chair, just so staff is clear, for next month, no matter how many projects we have, even if it's only 4, we still should not schedule the.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, and the other questions for legal dovetails with that. All right, CDRC positions. There was just an edit from Camille. Community is defined as the mid-coast versus community is defined as the coast side.
So it does look like there's a lowercase I in positions for the title. Doesn't really matter that much, but.
Uh-huh. Got it. Okay, thanks, Katie.
Sure.
Ramel, did you get a chance, or has there been a report generated for what's noted in red, the number of projects that received building permits in 2020?
Not as of yet. I've reached out to both our IT team and long-range planning to see where we're at on that, but I have no specific updates for that for you right now. I suspect that our team is occupied with the updates that we have going on Acela right now. We're trying to get that fully functioning and live so people can just submit most permits online without even coming into the office. And so I suspect most of their focus is on that effort right now, but I have double checked with them and I'm waiting for a response on that.
Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question about the ADU count. How does the county keep track of a situation where, like, for example, today, where somebody's building a project and they have leave undefined an area of their project, let's just say unfinished, that could in the future be developed into an ADU without needing to notify anybody? How does the county keep track of unfinished sections of houses that are being built that then in the future could become ADUs? It seems to me that there's no way to like keep an accurate count of ADUs if people are allowed to have unfinished parts of their house that then sometime in the future get converted to an ADU.
So I'm actually not sure which project you're referring to, only because I know that's not one of my projects. But
it's
I
Brian.
Okay, there will be another project in the future coming with that similar scenario that I've been informed of. If there is an unfinished area and it's not an ADU at this time, that area is under the CDRC's purview. You can comment on it. If for some reason you need to comment on it, it's still in your ballpark. Now, if somehow, let's just say with the CDRC's comments, that area is untouched, and then eventually later on somebody comes with the ADU. As you know, that is a ministerial process, and as long as they meet everything, in terms of the checklist style review, they can have that ADU. But at least I know for the project that will be coming in the future, we've told the applicant that if the CDRC asks you to make any changes to that area, it's not an ADU at this time, they have every right to do so. And so that will still be under your purview.
Yeah, it's less a purview question, more of like we seem to have a discrepancy on the count from year to year in terms of like how many approved permits, how many ADUs, and I just see this as a whole in the accounting system of sure that the CDRC would have purview over this unfinished area if it's not declared as an ADU, but it's not declared as an ADU, therefore not counted as one, but sometime in the future, and whether they go through the ministerial process or not, it can be converted to an ADU, in which case it's serving as an ADU, but not counted in any list. And so therefore it's like, do we really have an accurate count of ADUs?
So the one response I would have to that is every ADU that comes through, at least for the Coastside, this is not applicable to the Bayside for everyone who's listening, but for the Coastside, we do at this time require applicants to file a CDX, a coastal development permit exemption. And so that's how we would track that. That's our, that's how we memorialize that at this time. And so there is something in the system that reflects that ADU is there. Separate of that, when projects come in before you that include ADUs, even though it's not in your purview, it is included within the scope of the permit, and so we know it exists. So those are the two. I suppose those are the two ways that staff memorializes it in the system at this point.
So I suppose I could ask this question when we get to the hearing that we're going to have, but I guess then if we have a situation where the plans are unclear, there's a room that's being left unfinished or vaguely described, do we need to get the applicant to commit one way or the other? Is this going to be part of the house, or is this are you setting this up in the future to be an ADU? Because I feel like that's where it can like slip through the gap there. If they're like, well, we're not sure yet. We can't commit either way. We'll let you know when we decide that.
I would say until the point where they do commit, it's within your purview to request changes on that portion of the house. That's how I would respond to that.
Okay, thanks, Ramel.
Okay. All right, nothing on CDRC televised meetings, unless Ramel, has this been implemented yet?
It has not been implemented, but I have moved forward on that effort. I've been able to move forward on that effort a little more. I'm in touch with the right people now in ISD, our county's IT, and so it seems like it actually should be a relatively small lift to actually get it done. I'm hoping by next month you'll see this month's meeting posted. I think it should be a relatively quick thing.
Okay. And Camille had on planning inspection requests, Camille had an address correction on the vacant parcel. It was listed as 846 Columbus, and the fences were reduced in height to meet the height limits. Have you noticed that, Katie?
Sorry, I needed to unmute. You're talking about the case that's on Avenue Portola?
846 Columbus, vacant parcel with wood fences in process.
Oh, I guess it's sort of at that intersection. I think that the parcel that has been discussed is Avenue Portola. I have only left the house like once in the last 2 weeks. So I have not noticed anything happening over there. I did notice across the street there's been a lot going on, and I actually emailed Camille about that because I don't really necessarily want to be a neighborhood watchdog. So I kind of emailed her more out of curiosity, but there's a house there at the corner of Columbus and Avenue Portola that was finished not too long ago, and it looks like after it was final, they've come in and finished out a whole lower floor. And I looked online to try to see if there was any kind of like a permit for an ADU or something that they were maybe doing after the fact, and I didn't see anything, but I don't think that that's what Camille is referring to. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think I know the house you're talking about. I drove by there yesterday when I was looking at the projects for today, and it seemed like, I think it's the house you're talking, it seemed like there was like a deck has been added as well that I don't remember.
So I actually looked up the original approved drawings, and let's see, the original ones that were reviewed, and I wasn't able to pull up, I don't think, the ones that were actually the approved drawings to see, what the plan was, but I saw that it had gone through a big modification where it had gone from 3 stories to 2, and the garage location had changed and stuff, but now it's definitely back to 3 stories. And, like I said, I don't really want to be the neighborhood watchdog. Like, my hope on being on this committee is to be, beneficial for the community and not be the person that everybody doesn't want to see walking around.
Isn't that 846 Columbus again also?
No, let me look up the address really quick. It's like 60 something, I think.
So Katie, would you like for me to remove your name from the planning inspection request?
Well, I think the planning inspection request, was actually it should have been for one that was on Avenue Portola.
Yeah, for some reason Camille thought it was 846 Columbus.
Okay, let's see, the one that's at
Katie, is this the one that has the big like fenced yard with the basketball court?
Yeah, that's the one that I did the inspection request for, but the other one that I was referring to is, I think it's, let's see, they have a signpost. I'm looking on Google Street View right now. 912 Columbus.
912 Columbus.
Yeah.
And I won't put your name, but
Here, I'm going to share my screen really quick because that might be sort of helpful. Okay, so this is 912 Columbus, and it's right at the corner. So this is Columbus, and then this is Avenue Portola.
right.
Yeah.
And then right there, that parcel is the one that I had made the inspection request or whatever, the planning request to just see what was going on, because this is the one that had a bunch of work done.
Yep.
So that one's definitely on Avenue Portola. Well, I don't know, maybe it's got an address on Columbus, and I
Looks like it has the address on Columbus there. There's the
yeah,
drive.
that could be why. Maybe that's just fronting on Columbus. I wasn't sure if that was all one parcel because it's pretty big. But yeah, so this house, like right down here, there's basically a whole finished basement under here now, and I didn't know if that was part of another permit or not. I couldn't really find anything about it.
Yeah, I would add on that. I drove by there. Yeah, that's the house I was referring to. I didn't notice the finished basement, but I did notice what looked like an aftermarket deck had been added on the Portola side that caught my attention because it didn't really match the rest of the house, and so it looked like it clearly had been added on after the fact.
So is it a third possible level?
Oh, there's definitely a third level.
Third level and deck on Avenue Portola, Chris?
Yes, on the Portola side, yeah.
To be verified.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry for the confusion. I didn't realize that other property was a Columbus Avenue one.
No, that's okay. That was just a corrected address.
Yeah, but I don't
so
think I've
again,
seen any
Katie,
activity over there.
do you want me to remove your name? And just we'll note, we won't necessarily note who, but just that a vacant parcel.
I think that's generally advisable.
Yes, I think so.
It helps
It
prevent.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thanks for sharing screen.
Sure.
All right, ADU discussion. All right, there is an update from Camille that came in. There was a coastal commission hearing on, I believe it was July 8th, 2021, that Camille was a part of. She had redlined the design review standards to leave those that are objective and pertain to ADUs. Draft is under county council and staff review. Regarding processing ADUs within 60 days. The time frame pertains to the building permits only, not permits with discretional decision. UPS and variances, sorry.
Use
Yeah,
permits.
is that CPS and variances?
Use permits and variances.
Use permits and variances. The management staff will identify and flag such permits for faster processing. I was curious, has anyone come across a a circumstance where it's been more than 60 days in building for an ADU? Rebecca, Katie?
No,
Right.
not for an ADU. I have not.
Right, this just pertains to the ADU.
Yeah.
It's SB 68.
Mhm.
I think the only
Okay.
one that I ran into that was like that was one that was being held up by Montero Water and Sanitary.
Mhm.
And ultimately, when the client pushed back and sent letters with a lot of legal jargon, basically, I think it was John Brennan said, go ahead, and it like gave authorization to issue the permit and said, you know, as far as we know, this is basically a fee dispute that's between the property owners and Montero Water and Sanitary. So they didn't let it hold up the
The
permit,
building
but
permit.
yeah,
Mhm.
but they had to very proactively get that to happen. So I think that it definitely would have happened. And I don't recall if it went past 60 days or not. I think it actually did.
Mhm.
And it took a lot of action on our part to get that resolved. And my understanding is that the last that I heard from them was that they suddenly received a check back to them with no, basically the fees that were being disputed were refunded by Montero Water and Sanitary, and Montero Water and Sanitary basically did not put on the check or the letter or anything what it was for. It almost seemed like they were not trying to say why they were giving the money back and set a precedent. So it's kind of an interesting saga.
Mm. That is interesting. Did they end up having to pay for additional fixtures?
No, I don't think that they had to pay for the fixtures, and they did. I think even some of the fees that they had made them pay initially, once the
Right.
client dug into the state law a little deeper and said, "Hey, look, like you guys are trying to charge us for stuff we're not supposed to be paying for,"
Mhm.
that's when they basically got money sent back to them with no explanation.
Okay, all right, thanks for sharing that, yeah. All right, that is pretty much it. The discussion on the ADUs is our last item on the list. I will correct that today's meeting was at 12:30 and our next meeting, I will list that as well. All right, at this point, I'd like to open up oral communications to allow the public to address the Coastside Design Review Committee on any matter not on the agenda.
Sure. We are now opening public comments for oral communications for matters not on the agenda. If your hand is raised, your name will be called for this item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Pressing *6 will unmute or mute your microphone once you are given permission to speak. We'll give it a few moments. To the chair, there are no raised hands. Please indicate if you would like to close public comment.
Okay, we can close public comment and we're right on time for our first agenda item.
Yes. One moment. I'll get the applicant and owners on our side here. Carolyn, Tim, can you hear us?
Yeah,
They need to unmute and possibly turn their video on.
Hello. Hi.
Hello there.
Carolyn Lee, is Carolyn Lee part of the,
I heard her, she unmuted her audio, but she hasn't turned on her, well, she had spoken, but she didn't turn on her video. So I believe she's with us.
yeah, that's right. Okay,
Oh, there she
here we
is.
go.
all right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, this is the Montero item of the regular agenda. The owner, Timothy Patterson, applicant, Carolyn Lee, Pete Earnshaw, PLN 2019-00362, Cedar Street, Montero, APN 036-132210. This is the consideration of a design review recommendation to allow the construction of a 2,450 square foot, two-story single-family residence with attached two-car, 480 square foot garage on a legal 6,975 square foot undeveloped parcel. PLN 2016-00-222, associated with a staff level resource management RM. It gets a different PLN when it's an RM, Ramel?
No, to clarify, the PLN 2016-00222 is, it's basically the action that would have legalized the parcel. It could be a subdivision or a certificate of compliance
I see.
or lot line adjustment.
Okay. Coastal development permit and a variance to allow for 10-foot front and side setbacks and a 12-foot rear setback, where a 50-foot front yard setback and a 20-foot rear and side yard setbacks are required. Due to the triangular shape of the parcel, the project includes minor grading and proposed removal of 10 significant trees. This CDRC will not render a decision, but make a recommendation regarding the project's compliance with the design review standards. Staff will prepare an initial study negative declaration and will make a decision on the RM, CDP, and DR permits and variants after July 8th, 2021. The project is not appealable to the California Coastal Commission. The application deemed complete May 18th, 2021, project planner Kelsey Lang. To clarify, we had reviewed a research management neg deck at one point on a project where we were making a decision as opposed to a recommendation. Sneeze.
Bless you.
In this case, we're just making a recommendation, so we do not review the neg deck. All right, Tim, will you be presenting the project?
I guess I'm not really sure what, I've never done this before. So if you have any questions, just ask. So I'm kind of guessing. There's, in my opinion, can you see? I don't know, it's not much. See if I can't flip this. Maybe I can flip this.
You can talk us through it. We've seen the drawings.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just, I've had this land since 2007. I've been trying ever since to get something built on it. Obviously, I needed an easement. When I bought the property, I didn't realize it didn't have road access. So after a lot of complaining with Caltrans, I finally got it. And I think your question about the 2016 PLN number, that was a certificate of compliance. So after I did that, I guess I submitted 2 years ago to build a single family home. It's kind of in the backwoods there, and unless you live right next to it, I think most people won't even notice it's there. That's about it. Is there any other questions?
No, not immediately. Katie and Rebecca, have you had a chance to review the drawings and possibly go to the site?
Reviewed the drawings. I've not been able to go to the site.
Were you able to see the story poles?
Yeah, I looked at the demonstration
Images?
scale
Yeah.
images. Yeah, those. I did want to just open with thanking the applicant for putting up story poles, because that's something that's been very helpful for the community and for the committee.
Yes, especially Tim, I would second that in your case where your lot is actually set back quite a bit. So the siting of the structure on that property would have been a bit amorphic. It made it really clear where it was being placed. Yeah.
So are we going to clarifying questions yet?
We are going to clarifying questions. Katie, would you like to start?
Sure. Okay. So let's see. One question, I have several questions. Big picture question. I'm looking at sheet E1. I'm going to go ahead and share my
Can you
screen.
screen share?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to find out if these drawings are to scale because I don't see any scale noted on the sheet, and a lot of these elevations that are noted they don't look like they were indicated with an actual drafting program.
Well, if you mean like, I don't think they're quite to scale. So I guess, no, they're not completely to scale. But the elevations are correct.
Okay. So just through the chair, I guess something for county to note that this is something that the drawings all do need to be to scale. So that's something that moving forward would need to be provided. Is there a porch light here? When I looked at the electrical plan, it looked like there's recessed lights, and then it looked like there might also be a sconce fixture similar to the one that's shown here.
That's the only light we have. That one right there.
Well, because then I know we've got these two.
And then the two over there, correct.
Yeah, these two. Okay, so let me see if I can find the sheet that was on.
So there's a recessed light under the front door roof.
Yeah. Bear with me for a moment. Let's see. So when I was looking at the electrical plan, it looks like there's two recessed lights here. And then this one, it says WP1, house number power. So I was trying to figure out if that was meant to be a sconce that would be illuminating the house numbers.
You know, I don't know. I'd have to ask my builder. I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay. In relation to that, just so that I don't forget, the light that was, is this the project? I might be thinking of a different project. Does this have an actual fixture? It does, right? Yeah. So these don't appear to be dark sky. Well, they might be dark sky compliant, but they're metal halide, and I was pretty sure that metal halide isn't something that is approved. Typically, we see LED, so that might be a question for the county just as far as the lighting ordinance. There's a pretty high lumen output on these, and then also they're metal halide, which is something that we generally try to avoid. It's kind of an older industrial technology that's not very energy efficient. So that's something that we would just need to clarify. If it's just going to be the two recessed lights, that's okay. Honestly, if it is going to be a light at the front door, I'm fine with that too. I think that one fixture at a front door isn't a bad thing, but I just would want to make sure that the lights, you know, aesthetically make sense between these two that are at the slider, the one that's here and the one over the garage door. That selection that you've made might need to change.
What's over the garage door, Katie?
So that it's not shown on here, so I made a note that that needs to be coordinated with the electrical plan, but so there's a little fixture shown here at the gable. And then I don't see one here, so I don't know if it, I mean, it seems like if there was going to be a fixture, it would probably be centered here.
Did you put this light in, or was it showing already?
Me? Oh, I didn't.
Over the garage door.
No, that's part of their drawings.
Oh, okay.
But then there's nothing here, and on the electrical plan, we can, you know, there's
Right,
no light shown there, and there is light shown here.
Right.
Okay, so that was one of my clarifying questions. This was more out of curiosity than anything else, but this is a San Francisco approved planting list and their suggestions. I don't know if that was just used as a guideline for coastal and fog belt areas. But this is, you know, obviously San Francisco is a different municipality. So the county, I'm sure, has reviewed some of these selections and confirmed that everything is going to meet the requirements. That level of detail isn't really what we get into in our reviews. Let me see if I have any other questions. This still shows 2016, so just wanted the applicant to note that this needs to be updated to 2019.
What sheet is that?
That is sheet C1, which is a cover sheet, not a civil sheet.
To 20, what, 2019?
2019 is the current code cycle. And then this is something else that I had just wanted to clarify. I see that this measurement, the 26 foot 11 3/8, is from the bottom of the joist. And on the elevations, it's going to the sill, I guess. And so I just wanted to understand, I guess, is that a 3 foot difference?
No, that's probably just incorrect. I'm sure the one that's on the joist is correct.
Well, this actually seems, you know, the sill and the bottom of the joist would be pretty similar. What I was curious about is that this measurement, which is kind of the representation of the height, you know, I want to be able to confirm the height from natural grade. And it looks like based on this benchmark and the benchmark at top of concrete / sill is a 3 foot difference, which would exceed the height limit of 28 feet.
Okay, I'll have to ask the builder. I don't know.
Okay. And
So
honestly,
what's
the builder,
most important about that is that the height needs to be confirmed from the natural grade. And it has to be less than 28 feet.
so understanding that, you know, that there may be an issue here, I just want, you know, anybody who's listening in on the call to understand that the story poles may or may not be
Mhm.
an accurate height if they were building it at 26 foot 11 or 26 foot 8, shown here, which is a different number. Then we would just want, you know, to understand what that height was shown on the story poles. And I guess going back to the demonstration of scale discussions, that's something that the committee has recommended, that, you know, a cloth tape measure or something like that be attached to poles on any ordinance going forward if there is a story pole component of it, so that it graphically can be confirmed what the height is of a story pole. Because if we're not certifying these installations, then, you know, some way to confirm that it's actually an accurate representation of the mass is a good idea. Okay, so I think as far as clarifying questions go, I had one more here. Let's see. So is the front door going to be painted the same color as all the other trim, this delicate white?
I guess so. I hadn't really thought about it.
So one of the concerns I had when I was reviewing the documents is that at the beginning, if I can find it,
It's the next page, page 4.
page 4. Yeah, I was looking for the one that talks about the
Oh,
material.
page 3, sorry.
So it says, see attached material schedule and page with the neighbor photos. Do we have that page? Because I don't have anything that calls out the locations of any of the materials. And so typically we would want to see that on the elevations, in addition to a color diagram or color rendering, so that this part that is the actual, you know, planning set, once it's approved, that those colors are captured. So for instance, I wasn't sure if this belly band is going to be the white trim color. I wasn't sure if there's a different color that would be for the shake that's the gables versus the horizontal siding. Was there another color sheet that called all of that out?
Katie, there is one sheet that has some siding images down towards the end. It doesn't have the specific. Yeah,
I looked at that.
That's
It
all I
looked like,
saw.
I think it was more so meant to be a representation of just the siding type.
Right. I assumed, because then there is a color. What's on the next page? The next page down has the color elemental. So I
Right.
have similar questions to you, but I assumed that these pages were what was being referenced when they mentioned the attachment.
Maybe if that's, I mean, I don't know. So Tim, do you know, is there another document that has a color elevation shown and shows what colors and materials are where?
No, I think that's all I have. That's it. I have, well, wait a minute, I have, as far as colors. Let's see, I have this, I printed this up, hold on a second. I don't think this was submitted to you guys.
Kelsey, are you aware of any other document?
No, everything that I had as the latest versions was shared with the CDRC.
So I guess my builder did submit this. I don't think this was turned into you guys. I'm not sure if, I think it just talks about body color and then I'm not sure. I guess these are colors. I have no idea. I don't know if you can you, let's see if I can flip my camera around here. You guys can see it.
Not really.
No, really?
No.
All right.
I mean, I can see some context photos, a little bit of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Was this provided to you online somehow, Tim?
No,
Did
this is just part of the original stuff we submitted to the county planners.
Right, did you submit it online?
No,
Can you pull
no,
it
this
up
was
on your
submitted in
computer?
person. This would have been submitted in person
Oh,
Kelsey,
okay.
is this
2 years
something
ago.
that you have?
I'm
What's
sorry,
that?
what?
Oh, I'm asking Kelsey if this is something that's in the file that we can have access to, or I guess to Tim also, if there's a digital copy of this that could quickly get uploaded?
Well, I could probably get you a digital copy, but.
That we could look at now? Do you have it on your system?
Well, no, I don't have, well, maybe I do.
I can't really tell if that's actually giving us the information that we
Right.
that we need anyway. But so in the meantime, I guess while Tim is checking to see if that is something that he can get a PDF to send to Kelsey and have her send to the rest of us, I think that was it for my questions. So I can go ahead and pass the torch, and Rebecca, Beverly, you guys can go over any clarifying questions you have and let me know if you want me to navigate to a specific page or if you prefer to screen share yourself.
So I just went back to the original submission and I do have that page. I can share my screen if you'd like to see that.
Yes, Kelsey, that would be very helpful.
One moment here.
And just for my understanding, I was curious, Carolyn, do you work for the builder or what's your role in this?
I'm an attorney, and so I don't actually work for the builder. Unfortunately, our builder was not available for this call. So any plan changes, we are certainly happy to make. And we will be able to submit that as quickly as we can back over to Kelsey.
Okay, so Tim,
Yes,
you don't need to be looking for the drawing.
Oh.
If you could be available for some more questions, given that Kelsey was able to pull this up.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like it's giving us any information being called out specifically on the elevation.
Yeah.
No,
So-
it's not a
that's
proposed
actually a different
exterior
color.
materials and colors. So
Mhm.
what do we have here? Can you, let's see, we have body color on the left.
Yeah, and that's a different, oh no, it is.
No, it
still
is. It's the elements. It's very pale, so
Yeah,
hard to.
Trim fascia, white or white, fiber cement, lap siding, which would be Elementa, I'm guessing. And Tim,
yes.
the garage door and the front door, actually all doors and windows, would those colors match the trim fascia? Was that what you were going
I
for?
guess, I mean, it should. I gotta be honest with you guys, I didn't put a lot of thought into colors. As long as it isn't something obnoxious, I don't really care. I mean, whatever gets approved. So at this point, I mean, I just said, pick whatever colors you deem appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. So, Rebecca, do you have questions?
Well, I had sort of a more general question. I think that Katie has covered most of my questions, although I did have a related question to the one about scale. No, it's really more of a comment. I'll save it for the comments side. which
Okay,
is
I think,
about,
yeah, we'll have fairly extensive
cardinal
discussion.
orientations on plans. The more general question that I had, and I know that we're not, issuing a verdict on the variance, but I was just curious about the 12-foot rear setback that's being requested. Sort of what's driving the specific request that's being made. Like, how did you choose that was the amount that you were going to request? And this leads to comments that I have as we get to the comments section, because there's a very flat kind of wall along that side. But I was just sort of looking for some more general background info on how you guys made the decision to ask for the specific variance conditions that you're asking for. And I understand that it's the triangular lot.
Is this question directed to Tim?
Yes, this question would be to Tim, since his
The 12-foot setback. Well, I think if you look at the plans on one spot, I think from the corner, I think on the corner side, it's only 12 feet. So that's just, it doesn't fit otherwise.
Okay, so that was just what you deemed was kind of
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, that's how it fits. So, I mean, I guess the 12-foot setback is that's just where it is. That's the best layout for the piece of property.
Okay.
Is it an accurate representation to say that what you mean when you say that that's how it fit is it's because this is this a prefab design?
Yes.
So we're working with a prefab footprint.
Well, it's I think modular. It's not prefab. So I'm told there's a difference.
Okay.
And then that leads to another question, I guess, which is, can you speak to what the components are? If we look at the plan, like, is the garage one component and each gabled volume that we're seeing is a separate component, and those things are the modules that you are working with?
I don't know. I just know that's the final product. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I know the garage has to be built separate. That I know. It would have to be site built.
Mm-hmm.
So is the garage the only site-built element?
I guess the porch too, because I want it enclosed because it's so wet down there.
Okay.
I mean, the porch comes with it, but I mean, I asked to have it enclosed.
Okay, I think that addresses my questions. Do you have other questions, Beverly?
No, Katie, you pretty much covered. I have more discussion items. Okay, so I think at this point, we'd like to open it up to the public for public comment. Rumel.
Okay, let's do that. Per the chair, we are now opening public comments for item number 1. The public correspondence for this project received prior to the meeting has been uploaded to the meeting page on the county planning website and forwarded to the Cdrc. I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on this agenda item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Pressing *6 will mute or unmute your microphone once you are given permission to speak. Okay, we'll give it a few moments. To the chair, there are no raised hands for this item. Please indicate if you would like to close public comment.
I would like to close public comment.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in the discussion phase. To start out with, I didn't realize this was a modular home. I'm not sure exactly what kind of constraints that introduces. If to me, the home is not in compliance with some of the critical design review criteria, mainly the articulation of both the facade, including the roof, the vertical walls and the roof. And in a modular home, I'm not sure how much that can be modified.
Well, I have done modular prefab construction design before. So I have a little bit more insight into that than most architects would. Typically the constraints for the design for a modular construction, it's going to be the size of the modules so that they can be shipped and delivered based on the actual delivery route. So that's why garages are typically site built, because it's just too big to actually drive that down the street. And then normally you'll have a double plate. So that's the thing that tipped me off to that, was the building section. If you go to, if you look at sheet SE1, that was,
Do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So that was basically what tipped me off to this being modular construction. And so that's why I think a lot of these heights and details are boilerplate, and they're not actually specific to this project site. So that's why I was trying to have a better understanding of where the grade elevation is in relation to the height of the structure. So this company, and you can see here also, this is the double wall. So this is a module, and this is the module. All of this, I don't know how they're going to be doing the roof, if it's going to be just trusses that are added on, or if this part is attached to it when it ships. So I don't know for sure how that would impact the roof design for this particular project. You know, there's definitely ways, they're going to be doing some site building anyway. So, you know, if it was a matter of breaking this up with dormers or different architectural elements that need to be added in order to meet the guidelines, I think that it's definitely something that's feasible. But honestly, it would probably be a more productive conversation if we were able to have this with the builder.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that Tim is going to feel comfortable, you know, agreeing to any of the recommended conditions from the committee if we don't really know from a feasibility standpoint if that's possible.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful if we could just provide some kind of high level feedback with regard to the massing and
kind of leave that up to the
color and you know, so to give Tim as much as sort of we can based on what we have, and in the hope of you know, being able to address these things at a future meeting with.
Kelsey, can you pop up your screen again for the rendering or the materials? Not the rendering, it's just the materials. Would you be able to do that?
Sure. Yeah, the neighborhood context photos that we were looking at before.
Yes. Right. Okay. What are we looking at here? Right. Okay. What I was hoping for isn't on there. Okay. You can unshare, Kelsey, and I'll share something. I'm not sure if it's possible to introduce like a pop-out dormer. Let's see if I can share my screen.
I guess, Beverly, do you want to maybe talk more specifically about the concerns you had in relation to the guidelines, and then we can kind of talk about how best to address them?
Right. My concerns were definitely that the roof articulation and the facade articulation didn't exist. And
I'll go
there
back to
were
sharing.
some simpler solutions, possible solutions, but I'm not sure with a modular. Are you sharing?
Yep.
Okay, if you go to the other elevation. Right, if the two front above the entrance, if those two front bedroom windows, it wouldn't actually be a dormer. It would be a pop out for each of them, moving it forward. So you'd have two sections that were moved forward that included the window and a dormer-like change in the roof line.
So basically this part of the wall plane. Would
Well, it would
pop
be
out?
two separate ones.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking kind of like that,
A
Well-
pop out there. Right, exactly.
something like that. Yeah. So, I mean,
Right.
there's definitely going to be a lot of different ways that they could approach the articulation.
I'm just not sure it can be done with a modular construction. And then over in the master suite area, the second level, if you finish with that and go, right, exactly, go to the plan of the second level. Thanks for doing this,
Mhm.
Katie. If you actually bring in the south end of the second story and bring in the
Are you talking about
west
plan
side,
south?
over at the master, at the top,
Yeah.
if you bring that in by, I'm thinking 5 feet and just per se, 5 feet and bring the, yeah, approximately, and then bring it over, bring the west side in about 4 feet and widen the room so it sits more centered.
Oh, so you're thinking kind of like something like that, right?
Something like that. Yeah, maybe a little bit bigger, but yes.
Mhm. Yeah, so essentially, for the applicant, what Beverly is referring to is that one of the standards is for the second floor walls to step in from the first floor footprint to help reduce the visual mass of a building. And so this one is for all intents and purposes, just a stacked footprint with vertical walls that are uninterrupted on most sides.
And to push, I don't know if you can push back into that 12-foot setback, but to pop out the staircase a foot or two. Yeah, toward having it inset in that 12-foot setback, and then also dormering the roof line on that.
Yeah.
So that would pop out a couple feet.
So you're thinking that this would pop out
Yep,
and then do a dormer.
right, up on top. And then you have, of course, the pop outs in the bedroom windows.
So I think that these are all really specific design suggestions.
They are specific. I was jockeying around and these seem to be the simplest, but given the modular design, I'm not sure.
Yeah, my instinct is that the best assistance that we could provide at this point would probably be to just identify the guidelines that need to be given more attention,
Mm-hmm.
and then have them take
Sure.
a stab at that in a way that makes sense with their modular design. Because I don't want to get too prescriptive.
Right. Well, those would be the simpler possible suggestions.
Yeah,
Some.
Beverly, the pop-outs that you're suggesting, though, would those be things that would not go to ground and thus?
The only one that would go to ground would be the stair.
But wouldn't that then, so this is why I was asking about the choice of the 12-foot setback, because wouldn't that be within the setback that they're asking
Exactly.
for?
So I'm not sure
Yeah.
if that could occur, but
I think that a 12-foot setback instead of 20 is already a big ask, and I think asking to encroach in that further. Obviously, I don't think that we have purview over anything related to west
Right.
setbacks, but when it comes to the mass and scale and how that impacts the neighboring properties, bless you, Ramel.
I think though, Katie, you're right. I expect that we're all in agreement that the guideline with regard to facade articulation isn't
and roof articulation.
and that and that there are probably plan changes necessary to pull that off. And then I think additionally, there's some sort of body and trim color, you know, like Katie, you asked if the shingle is an alternating color. I think
Yeah,
obviously
like is
that's
this
that
whole
kind
front
of-
porch?
Right, those are things that could help
Trim.
a lot to use more colors to help
Yeah.
break up the massing, but that probably we need to see some bigger moves than that. And also the clarification of the height, you know, it seems like with the 12.6 pitch, if they are in fact over 28 feet, that could be reduced in such a way that it shouldn't be hard to meet that requirement if they're not meeting it now, but we don't really have the information.
Yeah,
It
or
needs
honestly,
to-
like if they brought this plate height down and
Yeah.
built the dormers into it, I know that that's actually specifically one of the examples of what to do
Yep.
in the guidelines, rather than having the plate height be all the way up. So I think that, you know, giving specific guidance on, you know, call out the material, colors, and finishes on the elevations, have all drawings be to scale, and refer to these specific sections, you know, to provide additional articulation, break up the roof lines, you know, show the height of the building more accurately in relation to, you know, the actual grade elevations, those types of things. And then,
Yeah, and also there are those elevations you were just on, say facing east, facing north, but there's a number of plans that don't have the orientation on them, and I'd like to request that as well, so it's easier to know what we're looking at. I'm pulling up the guidelines right now to try and give some specific.
Yeah, so for
Um,
instance, Tim, to give you an idea of the types of things that we're looking for that, you know, are an issue, you know, for instance, this large blank wall with no windows, no change in material, this is something that is, you know, not really in line with the guidelines.
Do you have this, Tim? Do you have these guidelines, or does your builder have them?
I'm sure he does, yeah.
Okay, well, he might want to just, you know, read through them again and refamiliarize with himself with it. I know it's been a while since you guys started the project. But I think that would be helpful. You know, these long uninterrupted roof eaves, those are things that are really, I'd say articulation and roof eaves are the biggest issues that we typically have to address on projects. And, you know, not stepping in the second floor, that's another common one that doesn't meet the guidelines that we do see sometimes. So that's my thinking, to sort of make the best use of all of our time and give as much guidance as possible.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Tim, if you're able to take some notes, I have some sections of the guidelines that I think it would be important to review.
I mean, I think this would all get captured in a letter.
It'll be written up in
okay.
the letter,
Okay.
Rebecca.
Okay.
But Tim, do you have any questions based on what we're discussing so far that would help guide you on, you know, better meeting the guidelines?
I don't know at this point. I guess I'll just have to get with Pete. So, I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. This has been a really, really long process for me. And I'm to the point where as long as it's a structure, I don't really care. So as long as something gets built, that's all I really care about.
Well,
And I don't care what it looks like. So if you guys want dormers, you guys want paint changes, roof changes, fine by me. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me anymore.
Okay, so it sounds like we can point to the standards where the project needs to be adjusted to conform to the standards. And then what did you say his name was? Your builder?
Oh, Peter and Sean.
Peter can take a look and do the appropriate redesign for conformance. We do need to ask you if you wanted us to take a vote, or would you like to return with your new design?
Well, I mean, based on what you're telling me, you're going to say no. So I guess I need to go back to the drawing board. So I don't see a point in that.
Right. So start with the standards, Tim. Those are essential. That's what we're doing here. We're really reviewing your design for conformance with the standards. And that's, they're pretty clearly written. It's not a like or don't like, we're really just looking for conformance.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll write that up so that it's clear. You know, Kelsey can clarify.
Yeah, it's more so a formality that we need to
Further.
give you, you basically need to make a formal choice.
So you would like to return?
Yeah, I guess that's a yes.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
to a date to be determined. So that's what we'll note. And we'll write up everything we said and point to the specific standards that Peter can reference.
Okay.
All right, so applicant has elected to return to a date to be determined. We will write up the conditions that need to be satisfied. They include, but are not limited to, articulating the facade, articulating the roof, using materials and colors to break up the massing, accurately representing the height, and a few other minor things that also have references within the CDRC design criteria. And a letter will be forthcoming ASAP within 10 days. Ramel, is that what we can expect?
In terms of the turnaround time for the continuance letter, we do advise applicants that it may not come in with those within 10 calendar days. And so we can give you the notes once we are afforded from the committee. So you'll have them informally, but then eventually we will formulate them into a formal letter and send that to you.
Okay, Tim, would you like the notes in advance?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Kelsey, the hour portion will be delivered to you within 4 days, and then you could forward that on to Tim. That would be appreciated. Does that work for you, Kelsey?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
I'll forward those on.
All right, excellent. Okay. Let's take a vote. No, actually, we don't need to take a vote on this, but it is said and done, right, Ramel?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I just definitely understand, you know, the long process, and I know that that can be frustrating. And I'm hopeful that your builder will be able to get, you know, a little bit better understanding of the guidelines, and that this letter will help him to get you there so that you can have something built, and ideally it'll look really great in the neighborhood too.
Thank you.
Tim, we would also advise you, if you can, to have Pete join us for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll, I'm working on it. He, I wanted him here, just it didn't happen.
Got it. Got it.
I also just want to take a moment to say that there's a lot of things about the design that I think are very appropriate to the neighborhood. And I know that this is, may feel like a stressful setback, but I don't think that you're, as far away from having something that would be compliant and that we would be happy to approve as it may feel at this moment.
Rebecca, do you want to articulate some of those?
Well, sorry, I've just closed my plan set, so let me open it up again. But sure, I mean, I think that the general character of the house is consistent with what we see on the coast side, with the, there's a major gabled form, and then there are some minor gabled forms. So I see the kind of, major and supporting roof forms being there. Of course, I can't speak to whether the county is going to approve the variance request for the different smaller setbacks. But I feel that the scale of the home seems appropriate for the neighborhood. So, facade articulation, changing, articulating colors, lowering eaves. I don't have as much experience with modular construction, so I don't know how challenging those things may be to achieve given that constraint. But those are the kinds of comments we make all the time, and are really sort of very common things that we frequently see people come back and address very successfully.
Rebecca, Katie, did you have a comment on the colors palette? Did you feel like it needed to darken in tone?
Yeah, I did actually have that noted. You might have seen that when I was screen sharing, that I was concerned that that color, that the primary color was so light that it wasn't enough contrast with the trim color. And it was, bordering on, in natural light, it might read almost as a very cool white. And, white is a color that's generally not supported by the committee because the guidelines want 2 to 3 colors. They want natural earth tones. So we definitely give a lot of leeway on that. But when it's really, really light like this, that's something that, across the board has not been supported by the committee. So this color is not white, but it's pretty light. And I would personally want to see it 2 shades darker.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm asking to use deeper, more natural colors
I think
on
a
the
third color
facade.
would be helpful also, since there is already a secondary type.
Yes,
Type of site.
that will come in on materials and colors to break up the massing.
Yeah, I would say honestly, the elemental color that's currently the primary body color that's selected would look probably really great on the shake gable areas.
Yeah.
And then you could go 2 tones darker on all the horizontal siding and then have the white trim, and that would look really nice, and it would break it up a little bit also.
I think so too.
So you want, I just want to guess, you want the elemental on the shake and then you want like a darker, like a gray on the others. Is that fine?
Just
so you
deeper,
can
just
kind of see the
deeper.
shades are actually here.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, 2 shades darker or something.
That
like
one or even the next one?
that one, or yeah, this one is actually the color that's selected, I think. So
Okay, so
that one,
yeah.
probably this one on the horizontal siding, and then the elemental would still look really nice, and it would be light, but it would be a very small amount of the siding if it's only on the shake.
That's
so I
fine
think
by me.
up in the gable, let me go to the elevations again.
Okay,
So in these locations where you currently have a slightly different material, that's where it's usually a great opportunity for a different shade of a similar color.
okay, and so we don't have to go back again. The front door and the garage door, color to match the trim or the shape?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's I probably to match the trim would be the more traditional approach for the style of architecture. But I think in our letter we can just call out for them to identify the color for those doors, and then if it does need to be revisited in the meeting, we can talk about it.
Mhm,
Well,
mhm.
I look, just to be clear, I don't really care what color the doors are. So whatever you are going to approve or be comfortable with, if you could put that, that would make me very happy.
Okay, we're happy to help with that. So if you want, we can specify these color designations on the letter for you.
Very much so. I really don't care about colors. So
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you.
yes, thank you, Tim. All right, so we are at 1:52. We have a 2:00 Moss speech. Shall we conclude our Montero review, take a little less than 10, and then resume for Moss Beach, Ramel?
Sounds good.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.
Still on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a 5-minute break. I don't know if you can jump in there. There's not much to do, but I got 5 minutes.
Okay, we're on.
Okay, so let's see, we are doing Moss Beach, which means we only have 2 representatives on the committee today. Unfortunately, we don't have a primary or an alternate for Moss Beach. So Rebecca Katkin and I are the 2 architects that are reviewing the project today. We always prefer to have 3 for, you know, a very diverse quorum, but until somebody else, such as this new owner, wants to join for Moss Beach as a representative, this is what we've got to work with. So feel free to join us. Rebecca, do you have any preference on if you want to chair this one or if you want me to chair it?
Yes, I prefer you to chair it if you don't mind.
Okay.
Do we have more Moss Beach items today?
This is the only one.
Yeah, the others are
Can you
all
take this one?
Granada.
I can take notes during the meeting.
Yeah, we can do what we did last time. So
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
lead,
I'm
and then
so
you can help me
slammed.
with the administrative side of it. We're all a bit buried. Okay, so let's see. Oh yeah, I'm not sharing. All right, so this is item number 2 on our agenda for the Coastside Design Review. Let's see, the owner applicant is Tim Parsi. The file number is PLN 2020-00450. The location is 2006 Valimar Street in Moss Beach, and the APN is 037-085-020. This is consideration of a design review recommendation to allow construction of a new 1,438 square foot, 3-story single-family residence with an attached 197 square foot, 1-car garage on a 3,408 square foot legal developed parcel, certificate of compliance number 95-0001, associated with a hearing level non-conforming use permit, off-street parking exception, and coastal development permit. A non-conforming use permit is required to allow a 10-foot combined side setback where 15 feet is the minimum required, and a front setback of 17 feet where the minimum required is 20 feet due to the non-conforming size and triangular shape of the parcel. No tree removal and minor grading is proposed. The CDRC will not render a decision, but make a recommendation regarding the project's compliance with the design review standards. The Planning Commission will make decision on the coastal development permit at a future hearing date to be determined. The project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission, and the application was deemed complete on June 3rd, 2021. Project planner is Camille Leon. So welcome. As I said, I'm Katie, and Rebecca and I will be reviewing your project today. Did you want to take a moment and present the design to us and, you know, sort of describe what your approach was and how you feel you meet the guidelines?
Sure. So the house is owned, well, the land is owned by my wife, Joss, and I, and we're hoping to be able to build this as our retirement house. This is Stephen, our architect, and Stephen has a very nicely written speech to share with you. So over to you, Stephen.
Okay, and pardon me for reading it. I thought it'd be more respectful. Let me just say what an honor it is to be asked by Tim and Joss to help them design their new home in such a beautiful part of the world. It really is lovely. And I can certainly understand any anxiety when there are changes to such beautiful landscapes. In approaching the design, our first thoughts were naturally to keep and renovate the existing house, whatever its inherent worth as a piece of architecture. Unfortunately, we soon found that the footprint of the house was way over both the front and side setbacks. Moving a small house is always a possibility, but at a certain point, the negatives added up, making far better sense to start over. The house design we're presenting today is naturally a bit closed towards the street and more open towards the views. We started with the main open living space, kitchen, living, and dining, essentially placed at the same height as the existing house floor level. Though a little odd, the 2 bedrooms then were put downstairs, and the site being sloped as it is, parts of this level start to get recessed into the ground a bit. Pushing the house down tends to reduce the overall volume. The last request from Tim and Joss was to have a small rooftop studio for them to both work into retirement. They're both designers. And this space is just over 10 feet by 20 feet. There is an ocean-facing deck off the living area and another small deck off this studio space I just mentioned. Regarding the studio deck, we thought it was important that it be recessed back from the roof edges and sunk into the sloped roof to make it less visible from off-site. And we're proud that it's configured so as not to block any views. The new house should be in harmony with the neighborhood, of course. So in terms of the house's massing, I tried to break down the volume and forms as much as possible. That is to have the house made up of a bunch of smaller shapes instead of being one large solid mass. This also happened to coincide with the choice one has, as we understand it, to either strictly follow the daylight plane or have what is referred to as articulated facades. Articulated facades means, and I was going to read the verbiage in case there were more lay people here, but you guys are experts. So on the entry, we have lots of staggered surfaces, hopefully creating a lot of interesting shadows and forms in human scale. On the south and west, we have lots of deep overhangs with porches and sunshades. The north, being an angled lot line, very tight, was by far the most tricky. But in short, instead of having one simple, tall, two-story angled flat facade, that side is broken up into smaller volumes. I use the term sawtooth shape instead of a straight line. The house's materials tend to complement these separate volumes and planes. The two dominant materials are a darker green, gray stucco, and a horizontal shiplap, natural wood-looking siding. The existing house had horizontal wood siding. The slope roofs are a very sensible composite roof shingle, and perhaps it's worth mentioning that we're matching the roof slope of the existing house and the neighbor to the immediate north. I believe it's something like 2 and 12. Roof slope. The body or footprint of the proposed house fits fairly snugly within the triangle of the allowed building area. It happens to be a long, skinny, triangular site. We fit the interior portions of the house within the setbacks, and we took advantage of the regulations that allow us to let certain portions of the house intrude into setbacks, specifically the trellises and decks. So this means in the legal sense that when we say we have diminished setbacks, we're speaking about those allowed intrusions, not the main body of the house. In addition, because of the site's slope, we're able to place a small garage in the front yard, or rather we're requesting to be allowed to put the small garage in the front yard, like many of the neighbors on the same street. And finally, we've managed designs that we're not disturbing any of the existing large trees. Well, we are disturbing the roots, but we're mitigating against harming them as best we can because they're lovely. And that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you for the introduction. Let's see. Rebecca, do you have any clarifying questions that you'd like to start with?
Some of my questions were addressed in that just now, but I have, I think, 2 more. One is about the color of green. It seems like there's one representation in the 3D views, and then there's a representation which appears lighter on the materials board, and then the applicant just described it as a dark green, whereas the color on the materials board is more of like a pale mint green. So I just wanted to ask if we could get some clarification on the intention for that green color.
Well, the intention, we have our current house is the same color, and we love it. This is in Los Altos, and it basically was inspired by the green of some of the plants up there in the summertime. So it's very grayed out. It just has a hint of green in it, and it is about, I would say, the color materials board slide is pretty accurate in terms of what we were intending. Happy to darken it if you feel it's a little bit too light, of course.
Let me just also throw out that both in their home where they had this sort of same dark green gray stucco, it's an integral color. And we picked Benjamin Moore paint chip, which had an LRV of I think 60 or less than 50. I guess that would make it 40. And it's a bit of an art trying to match the actual chip, but we firmly want it to be less than 50% LRV.
Well, it's also, you know, it's hard to know on screen whether what I'm seeing is the same as what you're seeing. So I guess maybe I would just put the question this way. Is the smooth stucco muted mid-green custom mix color on the materials board, do you think the most accurate representation, or do you think that the rendering is the more accurate representation of the intended color?
I was aware that the light green on the materials board was probably represented too light.
Okay.
And so it would be the renderings.
Okay. And then could you speak a little bit more about the garage, and this could be a question for the planner, is there an exemption being requested that we are or are not supposed to weigh in on about its position and or its being a one-car garage?
The applicant has requested an off-street parking exception as listed in the project description.
Okay, thank you. And the position, sorry, probably should have been able to find this out. Is it encroaching into the front setback, or it's all within the setbacks of the garage?
It's a reduced setback.
It's a reduced setback being requested.
There's a slope. There's a, if a parcel, there, it's allowed by zoning regs if the slope exceeds something like 14%.
Right, okay.
1 in 7.
And so that's not anything that we are being requested to weigh in on, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's
All
right.
right, thanks. That is it for my questions, I believe. Oh no, sorry, I do have one more. On drawings 2A6 and 2A5, there's a request being made for the alternate maximum height, right? I think that's the 33 foot. Let me get to.
And 28 at the front, 33 at the back.
And is the 33 being requested, is that at the downslope wall that it's being requested, or at the center 40% of the home?
No, it's the 33 is at the southern, I'm sorry, the most downward edge of the house.
Okay,
Side.
So not the
Okay.
40%.
so that's consistent with what we're permitted to have discretion to allow. That's all I wanted to confirm.
I'm going to share my screen in relation to that. Sorry. So it looks like this is where you're trying to do the 28 feet, correct? So that's the 28 feet. And then it's less slope. This would have been 28 feet from natural grade back here, but this is the 33 feet that you're requesting. So basically the maximum building height plane isn't as steep, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so based on that, with this section, the long section through the house, it looks like with a 28-foot height, this is the part that would be encroaching, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and is that the most extreme example of anything that would be encroaching? This looks like it's a little bit more, it's hard to tell. I know that there were several sections.
Yeah, because the slope slopes left to right as well as east to west.
Right.
So you've got a tilted plane.
Yeah.
So it's all cleared in the 28 to 33, but if it were pure 28, then it would be the southernmost corner of that trellis just on the west side of the studio that would impinge.
Yeah, so this is sort of a better example of.
Yeah, so you're asking the right question. Am I depicting the worst condition? And I would say, yeah, there's not, because of the funny slopes, the section I'm showing is as bad as it gets, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah, no,
close.
that's helpful. I definitely understand because I am on a similar parcel myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so is that, maybe this is a question, Katie, maybe you have the answer, or maybe a question to Camille. Is that the right way to be calculating that you start at 28 and drop down to the 33? I guess I had.
I think that because it's an alternative request, you know, if they were requesting 33 feet across the board, then they would have measured 33 feet up here, and then this exact line would just be that much higher.
Right.
What they're requesting is not as extreme. It looks a little bit better than asking for more.
Yeah. But
yeah,
the
basically
33-foot allowance is not like just for the downslope wall, then the angle gets to get drawn from the 33 feet to the 28 feet. Is that correct?
That's how it's directed in the S17.
Okay, great.
Maximum building height for the house shall be the plane formed by connecting the maximum
The
up.
plane form. Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. Camille.
Okay, let's see if I had any. So this part I was a little confused about because I was seeing 30-foot 4 3/8 here. And I was expecting to see 33 feet for this representation.
So
this might be something that just
This
needs
a
to be
midpoint on that?
graphically corrected.
Yeah, let me compare that.
Because then this one, you know,
But
it seemed like you're trying to show the actual max height at each location, but I don't really see how that's corresponding with what I'm seeing in the section here. So for instance, this one goes down to 29 feet and some change. But again, I don't, like, it's relating to,
Oh, yeah,
is
I
it
can
this?
tell you.
Is it because of that section?
I do know now. Because you start with, and this is mind-numbingly painful, but because you start at 28 at the uphill and 33 at the downhill, wherever you cut the section is not going to be either 28 or 33. It's going to be some number between them.
Right, okay, because these are the cross slopes
That's right. And so what I'm
Okay.
showing is the exact height
at that
the particular
section.
location. Yeah.
Yeah. So for instance, so it's sort of cutting here,
Yeah.
cutting here, right? That's those max building heights that you're calling out at each section, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that clarity.
Be complicated.
Another question. Oh yeah, we definitely understand the complication that goes into a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize how complicated it can be. So these little steel plate overhangs, I was trying to understand what the intention is with the light fixture underneath. Is that because at the end we've got some specs. So this is a recessed can. Where is the fixture type number called out? What drawing can I look at to reference that?
Yeah. I assumed that was going to be one of the cylinders, the bullet cylinders. But even now I see that it doesn't necessarily fit between that overhang and the head of the door.
Right.
Let me see if I've called out the light fixture. Light fixture 2, yeah, that's incorrectly called out. That would be a bullet fixture, so light fixture 3.
Where is it called out? Am I missing that? Oh, there it is. It's, yeah. Okay, so then that would be light fixture 3.
Yep, in both of those doors.
Expressions, yeah.
And I believe there's one more.
Well, so this one, light fixture number 3, this is a step light.
Isn't that number?
It's 4.
Well,
Or
it's
Mislabeled.
4 and it says light
that
fixture number
4?
3.
You're right. Yeah.
Oh wait, no. So I have both the number and then it says light fixture 3. I know it's a little confusing. Oh, I've repeated it twice. I see.
So it's like list number 4 is light fixture number 3, and there's 5 of them. But I don't know that that's accurate based on what I'm seeing
Yeah.
on the elevations.
Yeah, let me look at my floor plan.
Okay. So yeah, just particularly these expressions, since it is this very thin metal expression, understanding how you were planning to do a light there was something that I was trying to.
Yeah, I had intended a surface mounted cylinder that has only a downlight component.
So it's still going to be a downlight. It's not going to be a sconce type element.
That's right. It's a downlighting sconce cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
We can go research that and send you a proposed fixture for that.
We have it.
We have it. Okay.
It's just mislabeled.
Okay.
So are you saying that it would be one of these, or it would be this one?
Yes, the bottom one.
The bottom one. Okay.
The dark brown cylinder. That's right.
Okay. So it would be the downlight, not the up down.
That's right.
Okay. So that's something, Rebecca, just to note that we would want to have that clarified in anything that gets that moves forward. That basically we would cross out the up down lights on this specification sheet and circle the down light specifically, and then call out, you know, there's a
I have that in my notes too.
having these corrected, because we've got 2 light fixture number. So this one I'm assuming should be light fixture number 2 then.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is a fairly tall fixture. It's 8 inches high for the downlight. Are you you're gonna need to move this up to have enough space. Are you wanting that light to basically look like it's attached to the bottom of the metal?
No,
then?
that wasn't the intent. And I suspect now, I'm looking at the fixture I picked, if I did maybe an even smaller bullet that was halogen or LED, about that size. I know they make those. That might be more appropriate for that.
They also make some nice thin puck ones, right?
Yeah, they do. I actually just installed some on my house.
Oh, what brand? Would you mind sharing?
Sure. I did like a Maxim one, I think. Let's see.
That might be kind of nice, kind of discreet, right?
Yeah, it would fit under there much
Yeah.
better. I like that.
See if I
Okay.
can find it really quick. This is similar.
Oh, and so that would mount to the bottom, could mount to the bottom.
You would probably need to do something that, the little roof element would have to have some thickness to be able to actually, mount this. But they're very low profile, and you need to run the wire back to the house. But you'll need to detail that. I think the architectural intent is, probably there. But I think the ones I got, they're
Nice.
about a 1/2 inch tall. They're not bad at all.
Oh, so what's the diameter of that?
9 inches.
9 inches. They have a couple different sizes too. So you can look up the different sizes. There's a couple different trim colors, but I'm thinking, they have one that's dark anodized, and I know you've got a lot of dark anodized on the project, so that might make sense.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And would that that milk white acrylic lens not be a light issue in terms of pollution?
No, it's a shield. It's basically a downlight with a lens on it, so it it still meets all the dark sky compliance regulations. Okay, let's see if I had any other questions. This is more for maybe my education or maybe not. I saw that a couple of your stairs are 30 inches wide. So the one that's going down to the lower level is the 30-inch one, and then going up, it looks like it stays wider. And I was just, it's smaller again here. I was curious. I don't typically see a stair width less than 36 inches, and I was wondering, based on the code requirement is, I think, only specifically when it's for egress. And since you can get out to a deck, I was curious if that's why you're able to do a 30-inch wide stair.
Yes, I mean, I had to pull up the, and I could do it live. My recollection was they did have some pretty extreme allowances, when you get down to the letter of the.
Yeah, so this is like the egress section about the width. It's 36 inches, and so I wasn't sure.
Ah, I see. Maybe
Yeah, then there's separate sections that relate to landing, minimum landing sizes, so you may end up running into issues with that. I just wasn't sure if you've already been down this road and you found the loopholes already.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna claim that I nailed that. I got it off of the minimum stairway requirements of California code, so I didn't quite get an egress.
There's also some difference, right, between the different sides of the U there, where it goes from 3.2 to 2.6.
Yeah, so they're not the same.
I noticed that too. I mean, that's not really within our purview, but I am also interested to see if that will be allowed, because it's not an egress stair. That would be.
Yeah, so I was just curious, as architects, we're always looking for that gray area when it's needed.
Yeah, the reason was that in the basement, we have an intruding concrete foundation wall. And so it bites into the stair at a lower instant. Just so that's the only reason for that.
I think we helped because we grew up visiting Welsh cottages that have staircases that are much narrower than 30 inches. So.
Yeah, so this may or may not be allowed when you get through plan check, just a heads up.
For egress issues.
Well,
it does look like there's room, to change it.
Yeah, minimum dimension.
Required.
Thank you for the heads up.
Sure. Okay, so let's see. I think that was all I had for clarifying questions. Do you have the name of the color that you were trying to match for the integral coat stucco? What I had called out on here was, these are also basically mid-green to brown, dark gray, and then, as Rebecca mentioned, we've got some differences graphically between the rendering versus the color materials board. It's a little bit challenging because this might be a better representation of the green, but this looks much lighter than the gray that's shown on the other sheet. And then this is not, you know, an accurate representation of the color of the wood. So, you know, when we're trying to visualize what these will all look like together, it's a little bit challenging. I can tell that the rest of these colors all look pretty compatible, but this is very, very dark. And I wasn't sure if that's the intent. So that's why it's something that we ask for typically is the actual color, name, and manufacturer. Understanding that this will be a custom mix that's
Target, yeah.
stucco, but if you have color selection names specifically for the stucco, that would be really helpful because, you know, dark anodized, we know dark anodized. We can look up a GAF TPO dark gray and see how many versions of gray there are. You've got this, I don't know if dark gray is the actual name of the GAF Sequoia
Oh, right, right.
So that's, you know, then we have to kind of go look up all these colors and see what they look like together. But this jumped out at me as something that was really, really dark, especially in contrast to this, the light green color. So I know that you mentioned that there was a color that you used.
Yeah, we will and can get our hands on an actual Benjamin Moore paint sample that has the LRV and the actual, you know, numberage that will be our target and that we will hold ourselves to.
Yeah, so the LRV is not the only part that we're looking for. We also want to basically be able to see
the actual color
palette together, and then those colors become part of your planning approval documents that they will then, you know, verify at final inspection.
And we will do that for all of those colors. The medium gray.
Do you feel comfortable doing that during this hearing while we're discussing?
Well, it would be an online thing. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, if you want to look up the names while we're discussing the project, then that's helpful, and that we might still be able to, you know, make a decision on that today.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Is Benjamin Moore is any for you?
Yeah, any of them are fine, because you could even take a Benjamin Moore chip to Sherwin-Williams and say, hey, can you match this? So as long as we have an actual color that we can hold up in the field and say, yes, that's right, and we can look at what they look like together, then that's helpful. That's what we're looking for. Okay. So in the meantime, I think I'm going to go ahead and open this up to public comment.
Okay, we can do that. Per the chair, we are now opening public comment for item number 2. No correspondence was received. I'll ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on this agenda item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Pressing *6 will mute or unmute your microphone once you're given permission to speak. Okay, we'll give it a few moments. Okay, one moment, we have a speaker. Christopher, please accept this request, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Please begin by stating your name, address, and email address for the record.
Hello, my name is Chris Tyler. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, terrific, terrific. My wife and I own the property next door to the immediate south, the undeveloped parcel at 000 Valimar. We also have the property down below, which is 2009 Valimar. And we've met Tim and Josh, and we've had an opportunity to look at the plans, and we think they're absolutely gorgeous. We have no opposition to the setbacks, to the height, to the garage setback. It's a spectacular design, and we enthusiastically embrace it.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Okay, one moment. We'll see if anybody else raises their hand.
And that was these two properties, right? 2000 Valimar and 2009.
Mm-hmm. That's what I recall. Yes. To the chair, there are no more. Oh, we've got one more. Oh, he's probably clarifying. Give me 1 second. Yes, Christopher.
Yeah, sorry. No, the vacant parcel to the south of the
Ah.
property. That property and the lower property at 2009. That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, to the chair, there are no more raised hands for this item. Please indicate if you would like to close public comment.
Yes, I'd like to close public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so while you guys continue to work on colors behind the scenes, Rebecca and I are going to discuss the project, and if we have any questions during that time, we'll ask you. And if you have anything important based on what you hear us talking about, you can always raise your hand or get our attention, and we can see if it's appropriate at that time. Rebecca, did you want to open discussion? You're muted, by the way.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Just getting the mute button. Yeah, I also think that this is a really beautiful design. I feel like I have some concerns, potentially about the parking, but I think that is not for us to review. The overall style of the house, I think is really beautiful, and I'm seeing that it steps in as it goes up. I think that my concerns have been addressed about the height, discretionary height that's being requested. It doesn't seem, it seems reasonable to me. And I certainly understand the complexity of working on these kinds of skewed and steep slopes. So, I think that articulation is being met here. I would like to see some more clarity around those colors. But I think that what we're seeing in the rendering feels appropriate. I do think that the smooth stucco color shown, the kind of minty color, a pretty color, is maybe less so than what's in the rendering. So I'm looking forward to seeing that clarification. And I had similar concerns to the one you raised, Katie, about wanting to see the downlight as opposed to the up down light. But I feel good about this design. Do you have any concerns, Katie, that you want to bring to the fore?
The only two things that jumped out at me, and they're more aesthetic than they are necessarily directly related to the guidelines. So I want to, open with that caveat. The roof line and the roof pitch in relation to the height of the wall of the garage seemed a little bit disproportionate to me.
Is this lower drawing on A5 the best place to look at what you're...
Yeah, I'm still sharing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I would almost want to see this same fascia expression rather than seeing the pitch.
I hear you about that. And I initially had that thought, and I think I agree with you. But then if you look up at the top floor, isn't that the same expression?
Well, they've got that same parapet, or the fascia. So the fascia and the slope roof is kind of what's happening.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, the sloped roof is still visible, although it's going to be less visible.
Yeah, like when you look at it in real life perspective rather than an elevation, you probably won't see much of that roof slope. And so this felt like it stood out to me a little bit.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think.
And then the other thing that I had thought, and it could just be because this window is lower. I think this window is aligning with the window at the kitchen, from what I can tell here. And I think that that's a really nice expression and alignment, but it makes this feel a little bit top heavy to me. So depending on if they like the idea of continuing the fascia expression, I almost feel like a lower plate height at the garage.
What is the plate height at the garage?
It looks like it's 9 feet to here, I think. Let's see if there's a...
Would you feel better about that plate height if the fascia expression were there? Because then that would be a continuous line.
Yeah, if the fascia was there, then I think it's a continuous expression and it makes more sense to me aesthetically. So yeah, this roof seemed kind of like a little bit out of place to me. So that was just something that I guess we would probably make as a suggestion.
Suggestion, yeah.
I don't see the little eyebrows in this rendering, so it's not really, giving a super accurate. It looks less interesting in this
Yeah,
perspective
but
than
that's
it
the
does.
less detailed. Oh, well, right. I guess, yeah, that is the 3D. Yeah, the 2D views seem a lot more detailed.
Yeah, so I think, that was one thought I had. And then the other thing, and it was, sorry, my phone, these people need to stop trying to talk to me. I'm busy. Hold on a second. Let me turn my phone on quiet.
While you're doing that, I'll just ask, because I can't tell from this view, is the window that Katie's talking about, does that actually wrap the corner to become the kitchen window? Is there?
Now there's a gap in between, I think, for the
Yeah,
entrance.
there's the entry, sorry.
Yeah.
It's blocked, so it's hard to, I see, okay. Yeah, so, yeah.
What does that window do? Where did I just go? There I am. So is this all glass?
Yes.
Okay.
It's, it doesn't operate, it's fixed.
Yeah.
And maybe some of it will be translucent.
Okay, yeah. I do want to say that, this part kind of jumped out to me. The proportions of the tower in this view, which is also what you see in, I guess it's just mainly on these side elevations. From the side, when it's a pure side elevation, it feels a little bit disproportionate to me, but I like it a lot in the front view and the rear view. So overall, I think that because, I haven't heard any community concern, and I don't really think that the encroachment is enough for me to worry about it. But my initial thought was that no other houses on the street have an element that goes up. They all step down. And it is kind of a scenic view corridor. So I was a little bit concerned about that. But the amount of encroachment into what's permissible is fairly minor. And I think that from the front, which is, I guess when you're driving on Highway 1, you're going to see this side a bit more, but you'll be seeing it in perspective. And I think that the proportions are nice from this view. But that was my only concern, was that this doesn't really feel like it's the same scale and proportions as the rest of the neighborhood context. But I do think it's well executed. Overall, I think it's a really nice design. I love the vertical glass element here with the, the contrasting shade elements. And I think they create a lot of depth to the project. You've got the variety of the color and materials that the guidelines call out. So you've got, 3 colors if you consider the wood, the light green, and then the gray. So depending on, I think that these 2 stucco colors are those are very important for what we're trying to visualize for the project. But overall, I think this is a really nice design, and it sounds like the people who are going to be living there and looking at it like the design a lot as well. And I agree with Rebecca that it does meet a lot of the guidelines that we're looking for. We've got articulation, we've got the variety of materials, we've got texture. I do think that you were very sensitive in how you approach the rooftop balcony by having part of it be opaque walls rather than all glass. So I think, we've just got these little minor things that we've talked about with the light selection. So it sounds like, this would probably have to get a little bit deeper. But I think as long as it's basically, so it sounds like it's going to be a surface mounted light on the underside of the steel plate overhang, right?
Yeah, could very well be.
So I think if we call it out like that as a condition for recommendation for approval, then that would be something that we can probably work with. Rebecca, are you happy with that selection as well?
Yes, I am. Just as we were talking about it again, it made me wonder, what are the location of the house numbers? Is that figured out yet?
Good question. I think we could, I'm just throwing this out to put them just above the right-hand side of the lower kitchen window. Just get there.
Right there.
Yeah, compositionally that looks good. Would they not want to be on the fence?
I was almost wondering if up here might be good.
Oh, that's a good place.
I mean, because the fire marshal will have some opinion about wanting them to be clearly visible from the street. So it might make sense there where that's closest.
Yeah, or alternatively, it could be here.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh,
when they're
that's
driving on Valamar, that's where they're gonna see it the most
Yeah.
easily. This protrudes much further than the house.
I like that.
I do too.
Let's do
Okay.
that.
Do you wanna note that then?
Yeah, as a
Rebecca?
suggestion,
Yeah,
maybe
we're happy
cross
to-
members on Valamar Street side.
And then are you open to having this facial expression, or was there, did you intend on having this roof be a little bit different design element?
Well, if I can answer that, I don't like the idea of raising that garage anymore. So if the fascia to align with the sunshade, I'm not sure I agree with that because it would get taller.
Would it?
I'm sorry.
Well, it seems like the fascia, yeah, just here that Katie's zooming in on would be the line that she was.
Yeah, I think, if we're looking at it in a more 3D view, I understand what you're saying, because I think what we would have is, this would get taller
Mm-hmm.
here, which isn't ideal. Obviously, it's nice to have something be lower. My instinct was that it'd be nice if this whole expression read a little bit lower.
That leads me to the second point, which is what I'm showing there now is a concealed gutter. And that may be unrealistic in the long run in terms of my client's budget. And so I think I should be very forthcoming and say, well, what happens if that turns into a K-style or square shaped gutter mounted to the outside of the house, which I think is a slightly different conversation. And I guess I'm asking you, well, what do I do if budget removes that recessed gutter, and then we have a gutter attached to the outside? In that case, I could imagine it being painted a dark brown, like the trim color, but I'm not sure I'd want to align it with the sunshade, even in that instance.
What's the pitch? Is this pitch 2 and 12 like the other roofs?
Yep.
Is the garage plate height 10 feet?
I'm not sure what you mean by plate, but I expect it to have an 8-foot ceiling.
Oh, it looks like, so I'm looking at, let's see, the long section through the house. And the dimension string is on the far side, called out as 10 feet from ground finished floor to ground finished ceiling. It looks like that line would continue through and be where the ceiling of the garage is. Is that how you read it also, Katie?
No, I didn't show the height of the garage, but I fully intended it to be an
Kinda
8-foot
seems like
ceiling.
it would be about here, aligning with this.
The
From
garage is
top of
actually
concrete to the top of the concealed gutter is 10 feet.
It turns out that the garage is a step below the finished floor inside. On the floor plans, it's called out, but I didn't get to it there.
On that section, okay, so we'll make a note to update. I mean, would we want to call out, Katie, as a suggestion or a condition for the plate height to be 8 feet, if that is what we're hearing is the actual intent?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I guess what I'm wondering is there a reason for this to be a hip roof?
We were following the minimum percentage of slope roof required. And if it went to a flat roof, it might cost a little more, but that's not the biggest problem. I just thought we would go over our 20% if that became a flat roof.
Yeah, that's something that the committee has been very lenient in the flat roof percentage that's in the guidelines currently, because it is an outdated guideline that we have been in the process of updating. The guidelines as they're currently written sort of guide the design direction in a generic craftsman style in a lot of ways. And the community and the committee and the county have all very much embraced a more eclectic, diverse style of architecture on the coast side. So we definitely are open to more flat roofs. We have approved projects that have all flat roofs. And I think that because most of the roofs are, the sloped part is concealed by these eyebrow shade elements and the fascia, they don't read as a hip roof as much. But then when I look at it in the perspective, and since this one doesn't have anything, it looks like everything is flat, and this is a very subtle, almost unintentional hip roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. I was only sheepish about it in terms of budget for my client.
I'm totally into a flat roof, honestly. I've never liked that tilt there, so that's great. I think to me, my only concern, and maybe I didn't understand it, so apologies if that's the case, but if we were to put a fascia plate around that in some manner to change the proportion to the window that's facing south, I worry about the dominance of that visual bar being at a different height to the bar of the fascia on the east facing side.
Mm-hmm.
In other words,
so if I go back to the elevation.
Right, so if you follow that fascia line round, right, if it drops down, I worry that that would look awkward.
Right, I think that's probably why Katie was asking about continuing that line, but I understand that might be making things taller. I mean,
alternatively, you know, this is intentionally set a little bit below there, and I almost wonder if we could do something here, and that would break up the amount of stucco that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then this could become flat, and this expression will start to read a bit like that.
Are we allowed to protrude?
Sorry, I was going to say, Katie, the same thing, that as long as there's like a foot between the two expressions, as opposed to them sort of the top of one touching the bottom of the other.
Yeah, so that they look intentionally separated.
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
I'd be open to that. I just have to look at it. I guess I had thought of the garage block, quote, supporting visually the horizontal piece, even though they don't technically touch.
Mm-hmm.
Are you imagining that it's flush to the wall of the garage, or that it's moved away from the garage like the rest of the fascias?
I imagine that it probably would feel more applied, you know, as a trim element, so it would probably stick out like maybe an inch.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yes, sorry to interrupt. I was going more for a sort of sculptural, geometric shapes without the heavy-handed coping at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So those three volumes that you see have a similar way they meet the sky at the top, which is, you know, with the stucco and with the wood. It's a very difficult detail to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought having the garage different from that would be less desirable.
Well, I do think that the flat roof, like the volume over the kitchen, which is also green, would also be a way of addressing the concern. I expect that we could write the letter in a way to provide some flexibility for you not to have to make that decision right now. I think it's the visible expression of the hip roof that.
Yeah, well said. I like that last sentence very much. The inconsistency of seeing a hip roof on that form is perfectly said. And I suspect my solution is going to be to lower the height. Yeah, just to lower the height of the garage. You know, really look into what an 8-foot ceiling looks like and how tall the roof coping is. And it could be a whole foot lower. I just, for some reason, I don't have that at my fingertips.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We certainly understand not having every piece of, you know, data and dimensions.
Can I ask though that if you did do that lowering, would you then not do the band around it?
Yeah, I don't think it needs the band around it if it's lower. Right now, it feels like this feels like an unusual condition right here.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think if it's lower and there's a little more separation, it's kind of the same thing as if we had a band lower, but I don't think it needs a band if it's lower. If these feel separated, then it doesn't feel like this expression was truncated.
I like that a lot, because otherwise I feel it would be too applied to put a stripe on it. It'd have less integrity. No, so I really like what you're saying right now. That seems exciting.
Yeah, if you put that in, and where's that?
Okay, so essentially, I think what we would be saying then is that we would be changing the roof over the garage from a hip roof to a flat roof, and lowering the top of the parapet to, you know, by, I would say, a foot minimum.
Tim, they made me give you a flat roof, sorry.
Oh, damn.
Because I think all of that is good, but Tim, were you saying that you had wanted the band of the kitchen volume to feel like it was supported by the garage, that it's important to you that they touch there?
No, in fact, I feel there's a visual conflict a little bit if they get too close and don't support. So I like what you're saying by lowering the garage, if I understand you correctly. There's a more intentional gap between the two, and that feels balanced to me anyway.
Okay.
All right, then I think we're all in agreement.
Okay, great. Well, we really appreciate, you being open to some of these suggestions. Some of them are more
Great
related to the guideline and the compatibility of the roof forms, but the execution is where the fine tuning happens, right?
I think it just got better. This is cool.
Well, good. That's what we always hope for, is for
Yeah.
everybody to feel like, we're able to help improve a project slightly. But overall, there's really not a lot needed. This is a very well thought out project. And, as Rebecca mentioned, you had a lot of really challenging site constraints, and we definitely have been there and we empathize, and I think that you've done a really great job.
Well, thank you. Great job, Stephen.
Okay, so do you have some color selections for us?
Yes, we do. So we have both the stucco color and the gray. So for the stucco, we picked a Benjamin Moore number 452. It's called Norway Spruce.
Can you share screen, or should we be looking that up?
Done.
I can do this.
Okay, you got it. Nice.
The old fashioned.
Clicking away over here.
And it has, can you read the number, Doc?
452? Is that?
Yes, and it has an LRV of 38.4.
Mm-hmm.
And the lower gray stucco happens to be called Gargoyle. Benjamin Moore 1546.
It's a lot lighter than what we had on our color materials, which is great. Yeah.
And it is an LRV 17.4. The idea is that the base be a little darker than the stucco so that it.
How do you just do that?
Sorry.
We're just going to have another little architect drinky session and play with our computers. You can grab a tab. I don't know if you can do it. I'm in Chrome, but in Chrome.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
You can just pop them out. You can do the same thing in Bluebeam too.
Okay, they just came up so aligned so quickly that I thought you did it within the Benjamin Moore site.
Teach my daughter how to do that.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's see, where did it go? Here we go. Yeah, I think those look nice together, especially since I think that the metal elements, the darky anodized, are going to be the darker contrast that will really make that pop. So I think that that's good. So we are going to capture these colors in any of the documentation for approval moving forward, which it sounds like we're probably at a point. Is there anything else that we need to cover, Rebecca?
I don't think so. Will you, just because I'm typing, it's Gargoyle 1546 and Norway Spruce, is that right?
Norway Spruce 452.
Well, there was also the wood color, but I'm not sure how to quantify that today.
I think wood color on the color materials board is
everything
pretty
going to
good.
match the e-pay?
No.
Would you say the color materials finishes board is pretty accurate for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an actual photo of the material, the Trespa Pura that Tim got off.
Oops.
It's a lot darker than the renderings, isn't it?
Yeah, I can Google Trespa Pura.
Oh yeah, no. There we go. Pop that back in there. So I saw that your deck color is different.
Yes.
Do you like that being different?
It felt too samey to put that around. That was me. So I guess the answer is yes. And then the other benefit of it is I was hoping to put more of a slate colored stone in the living room to kind of like create a more of a contiguous floor going out into the deck.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah. And in a way, I think it mimics, what would happen if we put Ipe and let it just get affected by the weather.
Which is the guardrail. And those two woods aren't immediately adjacent to each other in
Okay.
many locations.
All right. So Rebecca, was there anything else that we needed to cover? I didn't see a light at the garage door. Let me make sure just the quantity of lights, because I saw that the quantities that you were showing on your light sheet were a good bit. So we've got one here. There's nothing out here.
Do we have to have one?
You have to have one outside of each door. I don't know if by code they require it at a garage door or not.
We might do, maybe we can do a landscape light. We have a fourth type of light, which is an L bracket downlight. Maybe that could satisfy code outside the garage.
We're going to light the numbers on the south-facing side of that corner, right? We have to do that.
Yes, we would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally quite like leaving it sort of dark because it's like it's the warmth of the front door lighting that invites you in rather
So
than the
Where
visual
does
dominance.
this light go? Is that the one you were just talking about?
I think so, yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
path light, and I didn't see, is there, are the path lights shown on here?
Look at the main first floor plan, A2 or A3. That's where I've listed the lights.
Okay.
So for example, light fixture 4 on the deck is one of those L-shaped downlights.
Okay.
So would you, are you thinking then that it would be like another L4, maybe near the front of the garage, but on the far side of the path? Is there a, yeah.
There is actually one called out here.
Oh, right, there's these two.
Yeah, those are 18 inches recessed downlighting wall sconces.
Oh, this is that step, that's that step light.
Yeah, like a step light.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to put another L4 outside the garage door if that's, and we would be adding a light probably to the address numbers on the side of the garage.
Yeah, I think fire will make you have them be illuminated.
So the reason that we're asking is because the committee generally limits one fixture for each exterior door. And when there is landscape lighting, we want it to be downward shielding. And so are these the only places currently that you have those LF4s?
I don't know offhand. No, that's a can light.
So these are those little step lights. LF1.
That could very well be the only place we have L4s.
So those are the recessed cans. This is a sconce, LF2. There's just one sconce.
We have two down, yeah, one
Two
wall
downlights
sconce.
here and then one wall
two
sconce there.
Yeah, I'm not showing any landscaping lighting other than the step lights mounted in the house.
Okay, and then down here, LF2, that's a sconce. Is that another one of those metal eyebrow roofs?
Yes.
Okay, so basically we'll just write that for each of those eyebrow roof conditions, another fixture will be introduced.
Now that one doesn't have an eyebrow, it's underneath the deck.
So
it
okay,
might
so
be
this is a recessed.
or a surface recess between the exposed rafters.
Okay. And let's see, over here, this is a pretty big opening. This all opens, right? Or is that fixed?
That's fixed. The entrance onto the deck is through the southern window in that area. So basically there's a big slider window that opens on the south side and then you walk around because the wind gets really crazy down around there. So we were going to keep the rest of it sealed up.
So I think we're going to have to ask that you remove these two lights.
Okay.
I think I'm okay with the LF4s staying there because those are very low and they're downward pointing, but with these being higher, that's going to be a little bit of a light pollution issue. Everybody on the coast side is pretty sensitive to that for dark sky.
Fair enough. Would you be willing to support any additional the down ones if there were, for instance, one just forward of the easternmost side of that deck on the north side and the south side?
Of course.
Well, I'm just thinking of that same fixture we're talking about, right? The yay tall angled down.
These guys, you're saying put them up over here?
I sort of had one in each corner of that main rectangle. Would that
So
be
you're thinking like one here.
Yeah, and the opposite side.
Over here, it could be a protrusion in your walking space.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But I think over here it might make sense, or, you could always consider doing those step lights along here.
That's a glass rail.
Oh, that's right, that is there, okay.
There could be an LED strip under the Ipe guardrail, but maybe that would be a light pollution thing.
I don't think it's a big deal if we can't put any more, but if it's possible to put one, as you just suggested, in the north east corner of that rectangle, I think that might help that not appear pokey at nighttime.
Or it might even make sense to put it here and here. So I guess what I would say, Rebecca, do you feel comfortable with saying that only the LF4s would be allowed on this main deck and not to exceed 4 of them?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had closed my file because I thought we were about to wrap up. So I want to pull back up the number 2 fixture. Is the number 2 the downlight that we're talking about?
This one is supposed to be the number 2, I think.
Recessed down wall fixture is number 2.
I mean, but we had been talking in the other location about as opposed to a wall. Oh, I thought we were talking about mounting a ceiling mounted, like the puck light in the location under the awning.
Yeah, we're talking about a different area right now.
Yeah, but isn't there an awning also in the area that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Because I guess my feeling is that
the issue is that there's no door here. And they really try to limit the exterior lighting to only be at the doors.
If we could put a third L4, take those 2 downlights away from the fixed glass and maybe put a third deck light.
I have an idea. I think I have an idea.
With that, go ahead. What's your idea?
Okay, I do have an idea. So it looks like these glass rails still have a little bit of a parapet, so they don't go all the way down to the walking surface, right?
Probably, yes.
So I think that that's actually a perfect location. You're not going to end up having this bracket sticking up and being visible in the glass. You could put some of these guys.
Yeah, I believe that's how I currently have it detailed.
Is there going to be room? I don't know what the structural detail is there with what's supporting the rail.
Yeah, there should be, because you can put them in between the post rails.
Yeah. I think the query there is actually instead, I think we were trying to put them into the aluminum channel. There's really juicy aluminum channels the glass goes in. What it allows you to do is it means you don't have to have any posts. So in that way, I think that's difficult, but you could do it. You'd have to cut a hole in the glass to do, I think, what you're talking about.
No, or you could just fur it out.
We have I currently have that drawn that way. If you look at the second floor plan, I've got 3 recessed wall fixtures in that little parapet. So great minds think alike.
Up here?
Yeah. L3 is that.
Yeah. So I think the way that you could do it, that aluminum shoe for the glass you're talking about is actually what I have installed at my house, and I installed it myself. I think what you could do is basically, see if I can just draw this really quick. So.
Did I mislabel it?
Sorry?
I intended those to be wall sconces, recessed wall sconces.
Yeah, so you could basically, if this is the aluminum shoe.
Yeah.
You could do a 2x4. You could fur it out with 2x4s incrementally, and then in between them, put the lights. And then usually you end up normally wrapping the shoe in something. You don't normally leave the aluminum exposed. Yeah, so then you can wrap it like this.
That works, right, with an LED, right? Because it's pretty shallow.
Yeah, they're very shallow. So I think that would be my recommendation. And if you're okay with that, then I feel really good about the lack of light pollution at that point, because you're not going to have any of it being visible above the glass. And you could put them, you could put like 3 across here and 2 on each side here or something.
I'm sorry, that lower deck, I'm afraid, doesn't have that same parapet detail.
It doesn't?
Only the upper deck is recessed into the roof.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also, I'm fine with the earlier suggestion of doing the L-shaped landscape light. I guess I was going to suggest just reducing from 2 to 1, but if that's not supported by the guidelines, then I think the L-shaped one is a better suggestion.
Number 2.
Because it is under that awning. If there is an awning there and there is the kind of grill in front of it, I feel not so concerned about that creating light pollution. You know, it's not like an uplight, and the awning seems to provide, you know, what a hood would.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that the landscape style light is a good option in the corner there.
Yeah. So how do we want to write this to leave flexibility for them?
I mean, if you'd like us to stay with only 2, then I can support that.
With just the
with
two
just these
L4s that are
two?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's just do that then.
Okay, so just remove the 2 lights type 2 at ground floor deck canopy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, makes it easy if you're amenable to that.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so I think, you know, without any further comments, at this point, it's the formality part of the hearing where we ask you if you would like for us to make a vote on whether we recommend the project for approval or not, or
Yes,
or
please.
you can choose a continuance.
We would love to request a vote, please.
Okay. We'd like to note that the applicant has requested a vote. I'd like to make a motion to recommend this project for approval with the small changes that we've made, which we would capture in a letter. Rebecca, I'll need you to second that.
Okay, roll call. Katie Costu,
Aye.
Rebecca Catkin.
Aye.
Well, the motion passes. The project is recommended for approval. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. We really appreciate the collaboration on this, and good luck with your project.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, and thank you, Camille.
Yes, thank you, Camille. Is Camille still on board?
We just lost
Yeah.
Camille, are you there?
I think she left already.
She left. Okay. All right. I don't know how to quit out of this.
I'll put you back onto the attendee.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Let's see. So did you guys want to take a break, or did you guys just want to jump straight into item 3?
I could maybe take like 2 minutes. My husband's been trying to tell me something all day.
Yeah, 15 all the time.
Is 2 minutes okay, guys?
Yeah, 2 or 5, whatever. Are we,
Okay.
we're like 10 minutes behind now?
Yeah, we're 10 minutes behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so resume at 3:15?
Yeah.
That's about 3:15. Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Sue, are you there? No. There you are. Okay. One moment. Give me one moment. I'm having issues adding one of the owners, bringing him over. Sue, do you know if Randy planned on speaking on the item? Oh, hold on. Sue, you're on mute. Give me 1 second. Let me.
Hi. Yeah, I think he's letting me do most of the talking.
Okay.
Unless there's a question for him.
Okay. I guess in the meantime, I will work to get him transferred over because I keep trying to promote him over to our side, but.
Well, Linda, that would be Linda. That's his wife.
Oh, Linda can do it too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Linda, can you hear us?
She's muted too.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw her on video for a moment. Linda?
Yes, sorry, I'm here.
No
I'm
worries.
here.
No worries. Okay. Okay, great. Katie, Rebecca, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Chris, whenever you'd like to get started.
All right, I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
And I'm off mute. Okay, this is item number 3 on our agenda, scheduled for 3 o'clock. The owner applicant is Randy Ralston, and I believe we have Sue Taylor and Linda Mendiola also on the applicant side. File number PLN 2020000266. The location is Avenue del Oro in El Granada. The APN is 047217110. This is consideration of a design review recommendation to allow the construction of a new 2,195 square foot 2-story single family residence with an attached 420 square foot 2-car garage on an existing 6,006 square foot undeveloped parcel. Parcel legality pending under Certificate of Compliance Type B application PLN 2021-00238, associated with a staff level grading permit. The project involves the removal of 8 significant trees and 465 cubic yards of grading. The CDRC will not render a decision, but will make a recommendation regarding the project's compliance with design review standards. Staff will make a decision on the grading permit after July 8, 2021. Application deemed complete June 3rd, 2021, and the project planner is Ramel Panglau. All right, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm the El Granada Community Representative. I'll be chairing this hearing, and with me as well is Rebecca Katkin. She's a licensed architect on this committee, as well as Katie Kostyuk, also a licensed architect on this committee. Okay, the 3 of us will be the committee for this project. Okay, so were you able to bring Randy over, Ramel?
No, I haven't been able to bring him over yet. I'm actually going to email him now and see if there's anything going on his side.
Okay, so while we work on that, I guess I will ask either Linda or Sue if you'd like to give us an overview description of the project, please.
So basically this was a slope project parcel, pretty sloped. And so we designed a house that was pretty much tucked into the hillside. It meets the standards that are required. It's about 6 feet below the 28 foot daylight plane. And I'm just kind of anxious to hear your comments on the project and see if I can answer any questions.
Okay, Linda, did you have anything you wanted to add? She's probably on mute.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, nothing to add.
Okay. Okay, great. At this point, what we like to do is we like to ask clarifying questions from the committee to the applicants if there's something that we didn't understand on the plans or want more information on. So I will start with, let's start with Rebecca today. Rebecca, come on down. Do you have any clarifying questions for the applicant?
Sure, thank you. Just a couple. Do we have a spec for the garage door?
I couldn't quite hear that. Spec for the what?
Garage doors.
I don't think so.
Okay, I think that's something that we will want to see. I don't know if that's something that you might want to do during the hearing time while we're making comments. But
Yeah,
that is my one question. And then another question, I mean, I think I see the answer to this, but I just want to confirm if the elevations are correct. There is the dominant siding is a horizontal siding, and then there's a stucco siding on the west elevation. I see a vertical siding that maybe looks like a board and batten, just in one location above the stone facing. And then when it wraps to the south elevation, I see some stone facing, but without that same vertical siding. I just wanted to make sure that that's correct, that that is the only location of the vertical siding proposed.
So I needed to turn that on. I need to see the elevation to follow you. So I've got that on.
Okay, let me screen share.
Yeah.
Here, so I'm looking at sheet A1-2.1.
Right.
So here is the entry elevation, right? And we have this accent siding on top of the stone. And then I believe I'm correct that this corner, does that wrap here to this corner?
Yeah, they should match.
And so we have the stone facing here. Is this correct that we have stucco above this?
Correct.
Okay. And so this is the only location where we have this accent siding?
Yes.
Okay. I think that is all I have for clarifying questions. I'm going to come back and hit this when we get to discussion.
Okay. So Sue, the batten board doesn't wrap around to the side elevations, just in that front section.
Correct.
And is the batten board, do we have a, let's see, I'm going to try to go back to the color view. Okay. And it matches the stucco color.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So that's that board. Okay. That. Once I'm in that location only. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Katie, do you have any clarifying questions for the applicants?
Yeah, just a couple. In relation to the question that Rebecca had asked about the garage door spec, same question for a front door spec. Is there a specification already, Sue?
No, it's just the way we designed it. We'll have that door made to look that way.
It looks a little similar to a lot of the true style doors.
So
Yeah,
those
can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we use a custom door builder to do all of our front doors.
Okay.
And so that is glass, like there's 3 panes of glass that are dark, and then there'll be a lighter one on the top.
So the bottom 3 panels are actually a glass. Are they like a fritted glass?
The bottom 3 panels are solid. The top one is glass.
I'm sorry, I messed that up.
Okay. And then is there somewhere in the drawings, I wasn't sure the right place to find the lighting locations and the specification?
So I was listening to other hearings. I sent Ramul the lights that we are going to use, and there will be a hanging one in front of over the front door because there's not a lot of room for side lights. And then there'll be 2 at the garage door at each side that'll be more like there'll be wall lights. And I don't know if you got the email.
Through the chair, I sent you Sue's email over with the lighting.
Right. So the lighting fixtures were shown in that email, but the per Katie's question, yeah, we're still need to know where the exterior lighting locations will be.
Right. Okay. So there's 2, one on each side of the garage door, and then 2 on, one on each side of there's 2 sets of sliding glass doors, or they're, anyway, so on each side of those sets of doors, and that's it. So there'd be basically 1, 2, 3, 6 exterior wall lights, 2 to each door, and then the one hanging one over the front door. And that's it for the lights.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. Let's see if I have any more questions. I think that's all I have for clarifying questions.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions here. Okay, so we answered the question about the wall material. In the landscaping plan, let's see.
Okay, hold on.
My monitor is just never big enough. Okay.
I miss coming in with all my sheets and stuff I can flip through, so.
I know Katie and Rebecca I think they like the electronic better. I need like a bunch of rolls of paper flying. Okay. In the landscape plan, what is your general ground cover like? Say in the front right corner, by the concrete walkway there, and then we've got the pea gravel and the railroad tie path that goes up the side there, and we've got a tree in the front yard with some bushes. But what do you propose for ground cover in the open areas?
I think I called that out. Let me make sure it's been a while since I've been with this plan.
Yeah, I couldn't quite.
So pretty much, oh my goodness, mulch. So yeah, everywhere where we don't have plantings and that such, we will have the areas mulched.
Okay. And we asked about the exterior lighting code locations. Okay. Let's see. In the application, thank you for answering these. We'll get through these real quickly. In the materials list in the application, it notes concrete decks and railings. And I'm wondering if that's referring to the couple of patio landings, or am I missing some decks and concrete decks and railings somewhere?
That should have just been the landing in the two, coming out the two different doors,
so
and the front porch.
Yep. Great, thank you. And the driveway material will be concrete?
Yes.
Thank you. And let's see. Okay, two more questions. Thank you. On the north elevation on the first floor.
Okay, give me a minute.
Yep, let me get there too. My notes, and then we got the plans here. Let me get to that.
Chris, which sheet are you looking at?
I am looking at sheet A1-2.1.
Okay, thanks.
It's page 6, yeah.
And there's maybe a better view of what I'm talking that's called out. Let me see if I can find the one where it's called out. Is that actually, you can't really see it from that angle. Oh, okay. It's actually on the landscape plan. Sorry. That is
Oh, okay.
That we were just there. C1 on the if we're looking at the landscape plan as it's oriented on the lower side, there's a landing called out, which would be, I think, in front of the sliding glass door on the first level.
Yes.
And I'm just that's really the only place where that landing is called out. And I'm just wondering what your dimensions for that landing are.
So it's 24 square feet. I think it's probably 4 by 6. That's.
So it would extend.
Hang on. Yeah,
width,
let me.
The width of the opening of the sliding glass doors.
Yeah, let me go. That's now where I need my full set of plans. Okay.
Yeah, the door is 6 feet wide.
The sliding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Let me go off. Floor plan. So I think because I have so much coverage and we've pretty much maximized it, that's as big as I can go on that. So it's a 4 by 6 basically landing for the front, those doors. And the rest is just going to be pea gravel wrapped around it.
I guess what I wanted to confirm is that the width of that landing will be at least as wide as the opening of the door. So it'll be,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
great. Oh, 4 by 6, great, thank you. And last question. I'm I'm pretty sure I went to the right location yesterday, although I will say I didn't see any demonstration of scale information or even a posting of design review notification. So wasn't quite positive that that was the right place, but pretty sure based on the map here. And in looking at the, let me find the piece of paper I want to call out here, which form it is. Let's see. Sorry. Oh, it's the last sheet in the plan set, which is SU-1, the boundary and topographic survey.
Okay, that's gonna be the civil plan.
I just want to reference this so I can ask you a question that
Can that be shown on your end? Because I don't have that with me right now.
You guys want me to share?
please. It's SU-1, the last sheet in the set.
Share. Okay.
Okay. So I see that when I went to the site, if I was at the correct site, there's a humongous hedge along this left side, along the left side there. That's probably 15 feet tall and it curves into this boundary. So I was not able to see this stacked concrete retaining wall that's shown on the left boundary there.
So let me jump in on that. You weren't at the right place.
I was not.
You were not. We posted, actually, my wife and I were out there yesterday meeting with the neighbors. The posting is on the tree. I think Rumel has a picture of that. And the trees were all labeled with caution tape that will be removed. So it sounds like you weren't at the right place.
So Randy, I was there yesterday and there was a group of people in the street and I drove around a couple of times and I drove real slowly by you guys. That was probably you guys?
Yesterday?
Yeah, there was a bunch of people.
Yeah, around 4 o'clock.
Yes, yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right.
So there's a, did you see the wire fence? It's the property with the wire fence and the 4x4 posts on it.
Great. Well,
There's two very similar lots on that street on the same side.
okay. All right. That's the extent of my questions. Thank you for, so I didn't have a question because it doesn't apply. Thank you for answering those questions. Now, what we like to do is we like to open it up for public comment. I'm pretty sure there was at least one letter from the public. Let me just pull up my email here.
Chris, may I ask a follow-up question before we go to that?
Sure.
Sorry, thanks. I'm just looking at the link that I just got from Rumel and open it up, which was about the garage doors. And there's a number of different garage door styles represented here. So I'm wondering if the applicant wants to clarify whether there's something in particular on this page that we should be looking at.
So I had Randy send that, so I'm not sure.
I can screen share it.
Yeah, she's going to share. So I'll point it out.
Okay.
I think I need whoever is sharing to stop sharing before I
Okay, got it.
Okay, so this is the link that we got. So is there one of these doors that we should be referencing?
Yeah, it's the top middle.
This one.
Yep.
Okay.
That'll be in pink, right?
Okay, great. Thank you. That is all I wanted to know.
Okay. Let me check my email here and see. We do have item 3. I was pretty sure we had an comment for item 3, Ramel, but maybe I'm incorrect. Yep, there it is. Got it. I got it. Okay. And do we have any other letters for this project that have been received at this time, Ramel?
No, we do not.
All right, so I'll go ahead read this into the record. This is from Luis Perez. Luis writes, I have reviewed the plans for this project and I like the overall architectural design. I strongly believe the design goes well with the diversity of architectural styles in the neighborhood. I support the development of this project, exclamation point. Okay. All right, great. And that is the extent of our, if there's anyone in the attendees who'd like to comment.
We can open a public comment for that.
Go ahead, open it up, Ramel.
Per the chair, we're now opening public comments for item number 3. The public correspondence for this project received prior to the meeting has been uploaded to the meeting page on the county planning website, forwarded to the Cdrc, and just read. I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on this agenda item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Pressing *6 will mute or unmute your microphone once you're given permission to speak. Okay, let's take a look. We have at least one person. One moment. Brad, please accept this request. Unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Please begin by stating your name, address, and email address for the record.
Thank you, Ramel. My name is Brad Colby. I'm at 330 Avenue del Oro. It's listed as lot 4 on the designs that were just up a moment ago. My email is bcolby@emersoncollective.com. And phone number is 415-640-7840. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to speak with you. So as Chris noted, Randy and his wife were out yesterday speaking with us. We appreciated that. It's the second chance we've had to meet him, and we appreciated the time he took. He went through some of our questions yesterday, but we just had a couple remaining that for us are somewhat serious and we wanted to address with the committee today. The primary concern we have is if you look at the drawing that says south elevation, where you see the 24 square foot 4x6 landing with a sliding glass door, it shows is coming off the great room, dining room, and then there's another smaller patio coming off what's listed as the master bedroom. That large patio directly faces both of our bedrooms and the entirety of our backyard patio. So we do have some serious concerns about privacy and potential noise, not so much with lighting as it's been explained. We understand there's good mitigation about that. But the two concerns we have, every other house on the street, the primary patio is either oriented towards the front facing Avenue del Oro or towards the back to minimize the amount of overlook and invasion on neighbors on either side. In this instance, the main patio is directly facing our house, so and into our bathroom, bedrooms, and the entirety of our patio. So we're a little concerned about that. The other issue is Randy tried really hard to help us understand the elevation. So if you picture our house, there's a long retaining wall and we're lower than the property that Randy is building on. We're not clear if the landing or that patio will actually be at the height midway of our current fence once the excavation is done, or at the same elevation as our own property. If it's at the same elevation as our own property, we're much less concerned because of course we have a fence. If it's midway or higher, then we're going to see everything happening on that property and they're going to be looking constantly into our house, and we're kind of quiet private people. So we wanted to raise that with you. We had a little trouble understanding the overall elevation of the property. We understand it meets the 28-foot sunset sort of regulations, but we're not sure how much higher than our own house it's going to be. Again, the question is just sort of what footprint of overlook is this going to have since our house is so much lower. And then the other concern, Randy was very good. We pointed out because our house is lower, when it was built, there is a retaining wall running along the entire property line facing Randy's property. So he was great yesterday discussing the excavation firm that's going to come in and the way they'll mitigate for any movement, and advised us that if anything should happen, of course, we can get a hold of him, and he's been quite responsive. So we just wanted to note we have a retaining wall there. And we were told yesterday there's a 9-foot setback, so the house and the patio would be 9 feet away from our property line. So that feels like that's a good enough amount of distance, but our biggest concern is really the sort of footprint of that main patio, really eliminating any sense of privacy we have. And, you know, God forbid noisy party people move in, that we're going to have everything facing our bedrooms and patio all the time. So again, Randy was out yesterday. He tried to help minimize our concerns, but we just sort of feel like that's a very imposing footprint when every other house on the street, the patio is either towards the front of the house or towards the back. And we know the design, the back is a master bedroom and they've only got like a 4-foot cutout. So they're probably trying to minimize excavation costs, but it seemed a little untoward and we just wanted to bring that forward. And I'll go back on mute. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today. And also we appreciate the work Randy and Lisa also yesterday have been doing. So we thought it was comfortable raising that today.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Sorry, Ronald. Thank you, Brad. Randy, would you like to address, I know Brad said you guys talked yesterday, but for the purpose of the committee and the hearing today, would you like to address Brad's concerns about the height of the patio landing, let's say, which looks to be about 110.53 here on sheet C 1.1. And then it looks like the fence, the elevation directly across from that point on the patio on the property line is going to be around 109 feet. So it looks like from the patio landing to the back property line has already dropped a foot. Could you address that, Randy?
I'm going to let Sue jump in on that, but I will say one thing. I just want to be very clear. That's not a patio. It's kind of an inside open area. So we didn't visualize it as a patio. And I think the concrete shows that as well. But I'm going to let Sue speak to it in more depth.
So I don't know if you have the rendering. It's, you know, we started at pretty much the same elevation on the back of it. And then we're trying to keep the elevation floor level. So you're not going through a lot of steps in the main part of the house, but we could we only have so much height that we can put in a wall along there, but we would be willing to do that if that would help mediate some of that. The back patio is pretty much dug into the back, so I don't see that as being an issue. But and like Randy said, that's not really, it's basically a landing for the doors. I don't see them using that as a you know, outdoor patio to say. It's more to bring light into that living room area.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. We had already discussed this previously. It's a landing, right? Okay, so that's an important distinction, that it's not really for congregating. But I think to Brad's point, that's a wall of windows there that I think his concern is visibility, as probably less traffic, more visibility. And so I think what he and now I am trying to understand is, so if you're standing on the landing or just inside the house on the other side of the windows and you're looking out, how much of Brad's house and the windows and the private areas of his home are going to be lining up or visible over the top of the 5-foot fence? I think maybe it's a 6-foot fence.
So I think you're seeing the picture of that now.
Yeah, we're seeing a picture of it now. Yep.
And you know, we're putting landscaping along there to help with that. And you see that there. So again, I don't see it as, it's not towering over them at that location.
Rebecca or Katie, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think from a privacy standpoint, I can understand Brad's concerns. I don't know about the accuracy of the elevation of the model in reference to this photo, since, you know, this makes it look like it's a pretty big drop. from the patio to adjacent grade. But, you know, where this is, even if it was a little bit lower, I can understand how it's very easy for them to have all of their windows facing and looking over the fence. The fence isn't really going to provide much privacy because of the topography sloping down and this house being lower. So I think, you know, with that in mind, I think my suggestion would be that maybe some screening with some plants that could get taller along that fence line would be helpful. Try to see where the landscape plan.
Yeah, I'm trying to open screens. It's just like I said.
So over here we've got a garden box with edible plants. So this stuff is going to all stay pretty low, but that's kind of back towards the bedroom. I don't really see anything planted along here. This is just all pea gravel. And then along here we've got P2 and P4.
So we can add screening.
And yeah,
I wish I had more landscape knowledge to know the height.
No, it's listed over there near the last column, so that the P4 is shown as 2 feet high, P2 is shown as 1 foot high. And
oh, there we go.
Yeah. Tall enough to...
Yeah, so those are really, really tall. Those like a herb and evergreen. So I think, Brad, I don't know if that would be something that would help address your concerns, but that seems like probably the easier way to mitigate this. It's not going to do much in the way of sound. But, you know, then again, somebody could be in the backyard right here making a whole bunch of sound, and I think that you're going to have the same amount of sound transmission. But from a privacy standpoint, I think that if there were some taller plants along this fence line, that would probably go a long way.
And also, so on the right side of the door, when you're looking at the north elevation, that's pretty much at the existing elevation, and then it slopes down, but the bottom of the door pretty much stays the same. So it's not above what the existing grade is from the right. I mean, we didn't build it.
Yeah, that elevation is very misleading because it's not, as we both know, it's not elevated at that height. It's pretty much at ground level.
Yes. And like I said, we can do some more screening along that side. And then revisit the plants to make sure I've got plants there that are growing up taller.
Are you comfortable making selections while we are in this hearing, or would we want to prescribe a specific height? Chris, I know you've probably got a little bit more knowledge of some of the plants that are successful for screening.
I wish that's what we had Bruce for, but let me just ask this before we get into specific plants, because I guess from Brad, if I'm in Brad's place, like, do I want a bunch of plants growing up that would screen the window, but then are also going to be right next to the fence, blocking any light coming in? You know, maybe at the right plants, it would be some filtered, you know, just some filter and also provide the privacy. But Katie, and let me just ask the architects if this is even doable before the applicants weigh in on whether it was something they would want to do. If we look at the north elevation there on A1-2.1, and we look at that landing that's right there, what if there was some kind of like, since it's not a patio, it's just a landing, what if there was some kind of, you know, wooden slatted structure built on the edge of that landing that provides the screening, has some artistic aesthetic tie into the house, but is just kind of a freestanding slatted so you can kind of see through. I don't know what I see it a lot in a lot of buildings lately as kind of a design,
screening, like a screening element.
Yeah, a screening feature to like add articulation, facade articulation. If there was something like that built at the edge of the landing closest to Brad's house, so that there would still be the full width of the patio, of the cement landing for people to come in and out of the great room there.
Yeah, this is
But
a little
now
funny because
and then there'd still be light could come in, but it would be not be affecting Brad's light, and it would offer the privacy screen that he's looking for.
So this is the size of the landing according to what we've talked about. So what's shown here, I guess this is the foundation stepping maybe?
That's inside the house. That's the,
Well, I meant here.
yeah, that's the foundation.
Yeah. So all of this is exposed wall. This is not a concrete landing across here, correct?
No, so actually, you're right. That's the finished grade is the slope going. Thank you for, I've had to change that so many times. I can't remember.
So is this a step down? Or no, you said it's
No.
flush, right? It's
No,
like
it's
just
flush.
slightly lower. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there. And so then it goes down as you come out, then it goes on down, matches the existing, well, the finished grade right there till they tied it back together.
Mhm.
But I would, you know, if we're doing screening, I would do it more along the proper, or I think, I'm not sure if there's plants there right now, but I would do it more so along the closer to the property line, because you can't really screen right at the edge of the landing, because then you're cutting right into your path along there.
Yeah. And there's already a fence there, but based
Right.
on the slope, you know, basically people can just see right over the fence.
Right, so I'm thinking more landscaping, plants that can go to a certain height, maybe that you have me, just allow me to look into something that you want something nice that would be compatible with the neighbor. We don't want to put in something there that he wouldn't like either.
Katie, can you hold that picture right there? So
Yep.
if we go with vegetation as the screening,
Mm-hmm.
then I would still feel like, okay, you know, whether it's vegetation or a wood screen, that's fine. Vegetation, always good. But I guess in hearing what Brad said and having a situation in my home where there's sides with limited light, I guess I would suggest or recommend or request that the vegetation be flush up against that landing, right off the edge there where it looks like there's a spiky plant there right now, right up against that edge, so that
So it's higher.
so that the vegetation is not right against the fence growing up high and then blocking, putting Brad's window side there all in shade. If you see what I mean, like if we put the vegetation screen closer to Randy's house along the patio, along the landing edge, as opposed to along the fence, then it provides the screening, but Brad doesn't lose his daylight.
Through the chair, Brad has his hand raised. Would you like to let him?
Yes, I definitely.
Sure. Hi, Brad.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate the conversation. It's very helpful. The reason we're concerned is saying that it's a landing with sliding doors is a little specious to assume that's not an entertainment space. That's labeled the great room, dining room. If I think about the way we use our house, we walk in and out of the backyard patio all the time. That's one of the joys of living on the coast, is indoor-outdoor space. So we're pretty certain whoever moves in, that's going to be a heavily trafficked, heavily used area. And again, mitigation with plants is fine. We're not worried about the light on that side of the house. We get plenty of light elsewhere. Yesterday, Randy had shared that he's open to raising the height of our fence. Right now, the fence, I don't have a cursor, I'm sorry, but if you're looking at the photo, the fence on the left of the house there, that's about 5 feet in elevation. So raising it 2 more feet or so would help mitigate the issue. And he said he's open to that. We're very fine with that. The bigger concern for us is it may be awkward because of the way the rendering is shown, but that's about 2 or 3 feet higher than the base of our fence. And so if you're standing in that great room or on that landing, essentially from your kneecap above, you're going to be looking over into our bathroom and bedrooms. So that visibility is our primary concern. The other thing, Chris, if you drove down our street yesterday, one thing people don't realize is Avenue Del Oro, that area is almost like an amphitheater. So it's like a semicircle where our houses are kind of at the bottom of that. So noise carries a lot. It's a big echo chamber. So that's why when we saw the final rendering and saw, you know, a significant sliding door, I mean, we're talking 24 square feet, 4x6. That's going to be the primary place people sit outside or have their doors open when they're in the great room. So that's why we brought it up today. We're not casting aspersions at Randy. He's been super communicative. We appreciated that he came out yesterday, but we consider that's going to be a significant entertainment area, and it is looking right into our entire backyard and our bedrooms and bathrooms. So we're willing to work with Randy in terms of like vegetation to help mitigate and screen. A higher elevation on the fence, certainly 2 feet or so would be great to help reduce that. But that's our biggest worry. It just, you know, having lived here for over 12 years and knowing how things work here, it would be like having people standing over, hovering over the entirety of the privacy you have. So I appreciate being heard and having those comments there. I think we're on the way to good mitigation. Randy's proven to be amenable to those kinds of things. So, but again, we did want to raise it. It's not just a landing for doors. It's screen doors that, at least to me, hint at that being a major in and out for an entertainment area, the primary entertainment area of the house. So thank you very much for listening to us, and Randy for coming out yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Brad. We will address that in a little bit when we start going through the details and any concerns that the committee might have. I guess I hear what you're saying, Brad, but I think that the size of the landing itself is going to limit congregation out there. I mean, the doors open and people in the great room, you know, clinking glasses and listening to music. I think that's something that we will definitely address with some screening. But I think the size of the landing will limit the amount of people that could actually be out there, because the rest of it is pea gravel and timber. So that's not very fun to stand on or hang out at. So, but we will definitely address that as we get into the details of the project. Any other clarifying questions from the committee? Okay.
Are we done with public comment? Was there anybody else?
We are still in public comment.
Oh, there's still people for.
No. We're still in public comment, so we should probably continue with that.
Okay.
So I've now called upon all raised hands for speaking on this item. For those on Zoom, are there any other persons who wish to speak on this item number 3? If so, I'll provide a few more seconds in case there are others that would like to raise their hands to speak on this item. As a reminder for those joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Give it a few moments. To the chair, there are no more raised hands for this item. Please indicate if you would like to close public comment.
Yes, but if there are any other comments, anybody raises their hand or we get any letters, I would like to reopen at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Ramel. And just want to check in with the committee again. Did you have any additional questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
No, neither do I. Thank you.
Okay, great. Excuse me. Okay, so now what we're going to do, this is to the applicants. The committee is going to deliberate, basically. We usually talk to each other about concerns we might have, issues with the guidelines or not. And so that, and then we will be asking further questions and having discussion with the applicants as we go through those concerns. So let's see, I think I started with Rebecca last time. So let's start with Katie. What if any, issues or concerns do you have with this design?
Thank you, Chris. So I would say, big picture, my concerns are mostly with material transitions and the number of materials that we have going on. I think that the renderings actually were really helpful. It's nice to be able to see the project and see the design intent with color. That's always really helpful. But there's a lot of transitions. So for instance, we've got corner boards here and here. And as Rebecca had noted and asked the question, hang on just a second, my dog is Okay, sorry, my husband just came in. He can take care of the dog. So yeah, I was a little bit, I wasn't feeling that the materials that are right here are very cohesive on the project. So we've got the stone that's here and the vertical board and batten. And then those two don't occur anywhere else. And those are actually captured by corner board. And then we've got a lot of other material transitions. So these wrap the corner here, which is, you know, more traditionally what you would see. But then we see a lot of other corner conditions and flat transitions where we're transitioning between materials. And I know that that can be a little challenging to build, but it also feels a little bit like it's an applied cladding that's covering something sort of like a renovation rather than something that was designed cohesively. So that was big picture, something that I was a little bit unsure of, the way that the materials are handled in each area. So this whole side is almost all stucco. It feels like it needs a little more articulation to me, particularly because this is all one material with the exception of this very small amount of stone. And then this side is almost all siding with a belly band and stucco below. And that feels a little bit like a strange transition because there's this little strip that extends. I do feel that the way that it wrapped at the front makes sense. So I think that that is successful, but it feels like there's a lot going on with the materials and that the way that they're meeting and wrapping around the building doesn't feel very cohesive. The other thing, big picture, that that I was noticing was just a little bit of inconsistency with the window design. You know, the guidelines, you know, they basically called for, you know, consistent size and operation and a cohesive feel for the windows. And I think that overall, I like the approach that you've taken, Sue. But, you know, for instance, this feels stretched out next to this one. I would almost, you know, think that it would be a little more successful if they all had the same proportion of this detail, or, you know, or something, or maybe this one doesn't have a divider so that this relates to this proportion. This transom window looks like it's all three continuous windows together. And then the other transom windows are broken up. So this feels like it's more continuous together. And then these feel like separate windows. And then, you know, so there's a variety of transom styles that are going on. And then the proportions that are being shown between these different windows, they're very similar. And I think that it's going in the right direction, but I was a little bit unsure of how that's being executed. But yeah, overall, I felt that other areas of the project had a lot of really good articulation. We've got primary and secondary roof forms. It feels a bit busy and not quite cohesive. The other things that I wanted to mention, when we were talking about the stair railings, I noticed that the front steps actually would require a railing here because there's a 5-foot difference in height almost between the landing and the bottom. And that's not reflected. So that's something that would need to be added. Bless you, Ramel. Or, oh, you're yawning. Busted. And obviously we would want to have the dimensions of this landing shown and have it graphically be consistent because we've got sort of a different, you know, aesthetic that's shown between each of the landings that are being shown. But I think that's probably a good starting point, and then I can maybe jump in on more discussion as the rest of the committee digests.
Thank you, Katie. Rebecca?
Thanks. I want to echo Katie's comments. I think that the transition from material to material at outside corner is always something that's kind of problematic for me. And then the use of the board and batten to the left of the front entry over the stone feels very isolated. I think that there is an opportunity. Sorry, let me scroll to the elevation.
Do you want me to stop sharing so you can share?
On 2.1 on the east elevation, there's an area where we have some accent siding in the stucco, And that feels like a place where if the board and batten is going to be deployed at the front, that it might be helpful to have it reprised again here. I also feel like the stone where it wraps the corner on the south elevation, it feels like there's nothing kind of capping or ending it on the top or the side. And so I wonder if it would be more successful if the board and batten were eliminated and the stone went all the way up there, or if the board and batten were eliminated and the stucco were the material that's there. I share your concerns about the outside corners, and I think that Katie's point about the clear story windows, excuse me, being 3 together versus 2 separate feels like something that would be easy to address. I think the other issue with there's the windows that are one solid one next to one which is divided into thirds isn't so problematic for me, except on that south elevation where there's 2 that are very close to each other that feel quite different. So I need to kind of toggle back to the plan. Are those 2 in separate rooms from the interior? Is one question about that, which I guess makes it, if they were in the same room, I would consider that definitely problematic. If they're in separate rooms, it still feels like something from the exterior that maybe wants to be addressed. I also, on the west elevation, the 3 roof forms stacked on top of each other over the garage feels kind of repetitive to me. I don't know. I mean, I think that, yeah, well, from that rendering, it really doesn't feel like it would be so visible from the street. Katie, if you could go back.
Yeah, I kind of wish that we had a view from the downslope looking up.
I almost would be inclined to ask if that middle roof form could be flipped the opposite way so that it would be going up to the left, up to the right, up to the left.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah, yeah. Or anyhow, it feels, somehow it just doesn't feel right to me to have 3 of the same roof. I guess we have some stepping back.
Yeah, it's set back pretty far. That's the only reason that it didn't bother me more.
Yeah, it may just be something that sort of seems more dramatic in 2D. And then I mean, I want to sort of speak to this privacy concern. It is a small landing, but that isn't it is an awful lot of glass. I mean, it sounds like the neighbor would be content to have it ameliorated with landscaping or a taller fence. I don't know if what the height of the existing fence is, and if we're at a place where a taller fence would be permissible.
Sounded like it was about 5 feet currently, and they were considering extending it up to 7 feet, which I think is the maximum for a side fence.
Through the chair, the maximum would be 6 feet.
That's what I thought, 6. Yeah, I don't know that that's going to be enough to do it. I mean, I do think some taller plantings like a Dodonea or something kind of might get you there if that is adequate as far as the neighbor's concerned. It almost feels, I mean, it almost feels like a shame to have all that glass there and then to have such a small landing, especially if it's going to require rails, which is kind of unclear as we're not really clear on where the height is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that this one would require it, but to be honest, I could easily see a larger patio going in later.
Yeah. And so I don't know if there would be something to do with the glazing. It also seems like if that is that as close as it appears to be, and just looking towards the neighbor's house, that maybe some kind of some degree of obscured glazing might be a way of addressing that. And then also at the front entry, and just going back to your earlier question about the lighting, it's not clear to me that those lights that we saw, in particular the pendant, although I like a pendant in that location, are dark sky compliant. They looked very open. And I think with that, Chris, I'd be ready to hand it over to you.
I think a side sconce right here could work.
I mean, I like a pendant there. I would just want it to be hooded. It looked like the ones that we were seeing were pretty open and glassy.
Yeah, my only concern is that it's going to be suspended from really, really high, which might look a little bit like an afterthought.
A side sconce would also definitely work. Or if there was some change to the trim around the windows or the scale of the windows that are above the door, there might be room, to put one on the wall above the door.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rebecca. Excuse me, sorry, there's some noise going on in the house. Okay, my concerns.
I can go to whatever sheets you want me to, Chris.
We can just stay right here. So are not very many, but one is that the color scheme feels a little dark to me, with the dark brown and then the dark brown trim. And so I'm not quite sure what trim around the windows and the fascia. I tried to visualize in my mind, like, well, what, white's not going to work. I don't have an answer for that, but it feels like the window, like, for example, the windows over the garage kind of disappear for me with the brown trim and the brown frame and then the brown siding, brown belly band. So that's that as a general comment. The color scheme seems a little dark for me. We can discuss how to deal with that, and if nobody else has a problem with it, then I can move on from that. So color scheme a little dark. I did feel like I agreed with Katie and Rebecca. The front seems a little busy to me with several materials. So Rebecca had provided some suggestions for possibly it's that one section of batten board, if that was because then we got batten board, we got horizontal siding, we've got stucco, so we've got stone facade, so that's a lot. Maybe we can streamline that a little bit. Let's see, I did feel like the front entry, it feels out of proportion to me with the really high kind of tower, the roof with the large eaves, and then the two stacked transom windows on top of the door with a window in it as well. It felt out of proportion, and so that's something that I would like to discuss with the architects. And let's see, I think that's probably the extent of my concern. So, all right, now we have the fun part. Let's go back through these concerns and see what we can do to address them. All right, let's. So I kind of have made a list here. I think the biggest ones I'm seeing would be the material transitions, and then I guess the openings. Maybe the windows need to be more proportional and consistent with themselves in this design. But let's start with the material transitions.
So if you feel better about, instead of the board and bat, we did stucco, would that satisfy that concern?
Well, before we address the board and bath there in the front, Katie, could you and Rebecca as well discuss? Katie, you were discussing your concern with the transitions at the corners and transitions from one material to the next.
Yeah, I think my preference is generally to try to look at it big picture cohesively rather than trying to isolate and problem solve smaller areas, because that's when we end up not having, the cohesive look that we hope for. So, you know, for instance, if we just problem solved this, then it's not going to address some of the other concerns. One thing that I was thinking about with this, as far as you're concerned about the dark color, Chris, I actually don't have a problem with the dark color scheme. I think especially because it is right next door to a dark home also, I think it actually kind of helps it blend in the neighborhood a little bit. But I do see what you're talking about with how these windows kind of disappear. And hang on a second, Sue, I have a question. And we'll kind of ask you things as we go, but to try to help us, you know, we're going to be running behind. So I'm going to try to help us stay on track and try to be, you know, as productive with our conversation as possible. Everywhere that it's horizontal siding, is it brown?
No, that's what I was gonna, if you look at my rendering that I did, this is something we had done. You can see there's a contrast between the windows are black.
Is there one in the plan set? This
yes. One? No, it's 2D. It's not a 3D one, that one. So you can see there's your color. Those are straight from the, you know, the color.
So it's not actually that dark brown, it's a gray color.
Correct. And it's black, the windows are framed in black and will be black windows.
Okay, so none of this is actually going to be brown like we're seeing here.
Correct.
Everything that's, well, so these should look the same. This should be gray and this should be black, and the garage door be black.
Yes.
Okay. So one thing I had been thinking was, if anything, it's nicer when a garage door disappears. And because this is darker, whether or not it remains stone, stone does feel most appropriate as a base and it grounds a building. So if the bottom was the darker color and the top was the blue, I think that that would help it feel a little more cohesive also. It's a different look, so I'm not sure if that's something that you're open to exploring. Whether or not you want the colors to always tie to a material or not is another question. So, you know, like I said, what I'm seeing right now is that everything that's horizontal siding is that gray color. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And then everything that's stucco, with the exception of this, would be blue, right?
Correct.
Okay. These look very close in tone to me. The shades look pretty similar. Without seeing the actual paint chips, I'm not sure if there would be much contrast to them. So that's something else that just pops into my head looking at this, is that this would maybe want to be a little darker, or this would want to be a little bit lighter so that you can notice more of a distinction between the gray and the blue. But again, without seeing physical samples, it's harder to tell. But I think the garage door would probably disappear a little bit more in a darker color of stucco. But if we look at the elevations, you know, having one side of the building be siding predominantly and the other side of the building be predominantly stucco, it's almost like they're opposites of each other. There's a little bit of stucco here and a teeny bit there. There's a little bit of siding there and a little bit of siding there. And I almost feel like if you just switched those, that in itself might help. And I don't know if those corner transitions are a concern for you. You know, when it gets right down to it, you know, I'm trying to be very cognizant of which comments and concerns are directly related to the guidelines. So obviously having a cohesive design and not having the variety of materials get too busy. Those are things that are important when we think about the guidelines. You've done a good job of breaking it up with both the massing and the materials, but I think it maybe has just gone a little bit too busy. Or if it's going to have that much going on, having it be very intentional in the placements would probably be more successful.
Can I piggyback on that for a second, Katie?
Yeah, of course.
Talking about the garage, I'm just wondering, to throw out some things so that Sue has something to respond to. I also think that the garage doors would disappear more if the space around them were the stone, as opposed to changing all the stucco. Then it would be dark and dark. And I know the stone is a more expensive, yeah, they are finished, but there's not that much wall there. I'm not sure how, you know, we would have to look at the wrapping concern, which at the outside corners is a big concern for me, but that would potentially be another way to attack that. And with your comment also about the blue and the gray being so close to each other, I don't know, because I know that Chris has concerns about the darkness overall. I really like that blue color. So if one of them were going to change, I would
say a little darker on the gray.
Yeah, for the gray to be the one to change. Or I guess it could go lighter also. I do think that this rendering shows sufficient contrast between the window trim color and the gray body color that I don't think the windows are going to get as lost as they appear to be in that rendering. But anyhow, that's all. I just wanted to sort of chime in on the things that you raised.
So with regard then to color and materials, we've raised some concerns. What is the direction that we would provide to the applicant on this?
I guess I was hoping to hear from the applicant whether whether changing colors of, changing that the stucco is always blue and the siding is always gray would be something that was acceptable, or whether utilizing more of the stone would be more the direction that she would prefer to go. Because I don't want to get too prescriptive, but I do feel like if we're going to approve this today, that we're going to have to get some clarity on these things.
So
Let me just clarify for a second, Sue. Maybe this will help.
Okay.
So with regard to Sue, the answer that Sue's going to give us, so I can capture this for the letter here. What is the problem that we're trying to solve here?
I think the problem that we're trying to solve is the busyness of the material palette and the feeling that the materials in some locations feel
it's inconsistently applied.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sue?
Okay. So this is more contemporary. If it's too feeling busy, we'd be happy to bring the rock. I don't know if you'd like to see the rock come all the way up and eliminate the board and bat in that whole corner, or we can wrap that with stucco so it would be more matching with what's already there. So can we kind of address that?
At the garage, what would be your preference for how to address the concerns that have been raised?
Well, I think I would like to do stucco, wrap it around that corner in stucco.
So you're still referring to the left side of the west elevation, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm asking about at the garage, what would be your preferred way for addressing the concerns?
Well, my concern, if I start doing, we like rock. I mean, rock would be nice there, but then, like you said, you have a transition issue when you start going around the corner. How far do you want to go with the stone is kind of a consideration. Would you stop it where the window starts, run it along the bottom of the windows?
I think that on the south elevation, if it were stone there, I would probably wrap it all the way where you have the stucco to the steps to the entry. On the north, it is a little trickier, but I think I could be happy if it just wrapped back up.
Are you saying basically the stone would sort of align and wrap around this entry piece? So this bottom would be stone. You could come carry this trim piece.
And then if the batten became stucco, that would be a little more consistent.
Yeah, and I would say, let's see if this is all. So if this is stucco, so this would all be stone.
And then if that's stucco, then coming around.
Yeah, then this will feel like it's kind of part of this. So it feels a little bit more cohesive and not quite as chopped up.
Are we there coming around? Yeah, where are we on the north? No, let's see. Sorry, that would be coming around to the south.
So this would all be stone, right?
On the south, we'd have a
high.
With the stucco wrapping the corner to stucco.
So
and-
this would be stone also, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean,
This kind of pops out
mhm,
here.
right, and then it could come lower on the south, saving a little bit of material if you did want to bring.
Right, so this would all run across the same level to line up with the bottom of this trim piece, right? Is that right?
Yeah, we could do that. It's almost there on my rendering. It almost looks like that.
Okay, so.
And yeah, and then on the north side, I don't think that I would feel that the stone had to wrap dramatically far.
And this stays stucco.
No wrapping of the stone at the north elevation?
Oh, Rebecca, you're muted.
I think it should wrap, but I don't think it has to come particularly.
It's got to wrap a little bit at least.
Yeah, Katie's still.
So this little trim thing would continue. So obviously then we've got this is sort of starting to visually unite the base. This kind of feels like it's part of this, which is good. So on this side, like this feels kind of like a weird place to stop this. So then I guess it comes back to like, is there an overall preference for one material over the other when we're talking stucco versus siding, Sue?
Not particularly.
Because maybe this is a good place to transition to siding. So you're terminating both materials, and that creates a more like, and maybe there'd be like a trim piece or something. And then you could do the same thing over here. You could take it over to, I don't know, maybe you take it to like, I don't know, here. You don't want it to be like right up on that window.
Yeah.
Then that'll look funny.
And it almost makes me wonder if this should be stucco
Right.
to here, and then you transition to siding again. But then it's kind of like the front of the house is different than the sides and back.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it helps to take the stucco off the south, because then we're going to create another corner where we have an outside transition, right? So if the stone continued and then it was stucco above, same as in the front, and the stucco continued, then when we come around to the back, we have stucco and stucco. But then we still have the north elevation to contend with.
So stucco, stucco, stucco.
And around the corner here, it's all stucco.
This all pops out, right? This is actually like, that's kind of like this is flush.
No.
It's not?
One comes out further than the other. And the,
okay, yeah, I see that pops out. And then this overhangs and this overhangs, right?
Yeah.
And then this is the wall below. So,
yeah, and you asked about, those windows are in two different rooms that you were going to kind of light up the stairs. And,
yeah. Would you be open to this window just not having the divided lights? Because then it's going to sort of look like it's this pane, and
sure.
It wouldn't be as busy.
I'm open to that.
So what do you think, committee? Does that help?
What are you suggesting for that window?
So I'm basically suggesting
so
this.
So does that render it a non-operable window? How wide is it?
I mean, it could be a casement. I don't know what the operation was anyway. This is in a hallway at the stair kind of area.
It looks.
And this is 3 feet. This is 3 feet wide, and this one's 6 feet wide.
Oh, it is 3 feet wide. Okay, that's fine for a casement.
Yeah. Or do you prefer it with it?
So then you'd have to, there's a window on the other corner of that, which you'd want to match, that you see from the front of the house.
Mm.
And so
What if it just flipped, mirrored? Are they all, if the divider was on the right, the three divisions were on the right instead of the left?
I think it's going to open up a can of worms here because then this one would be different than this one.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean that one. I mean the other one that you were making solid before.
Just this one?
Yeah. Then in that room, the three divisions would be towards the corner on each one. And there'd be sort of more space between the long rectangles and the small squares.
Can I just jump into to Becca and Katie for a sec? I guess my concern here is that we're really getting down into some like specific,
really nitty gritty.
And I'm, I guess, being a layperson, but also with the mind of like, how we're trying to help the applicant. I guess I would like to take a couple steps back, and that's why I asked, like, well, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Because the conditions or the recommendations, suggestions we want to give them, seems to me that we want to give them suggestions like, address the inconsistency of the materials application in the north elevation. I think all the suggestions that we're making are really good, but it feels to me like we're giving specific instruction as opposed to like, hey, here's the issue we're seeing. There's a busyness of the materials and an inconsistency of the application.
Yeah, we're going a bit too far down into the weeds on helping problem solve it.
I mean, I love you both because you're so good at it, but I do feel like when I can't keep up on like the little details, that's like a warning signal in my head of like getting.
I think it's just a matter of trying to arrive at a place, because I feel like we have a design that is largely successful, but with some problems. And I feel like if we leave it that open, which is fine, but then we may be looking at a continuance.
So I can hear your concern about the siding, and I think we can I think you've kind of come up with some solutions to help that feel from the front and then the different sides. The windows, that's more a modern style of window to go with a more contemporary style house. I do start getting concerned when we start flipping them around, and it's basically a fixed and a casement, and the casement sizes are to help to make sure we have egress coming out of the bedrooms. So I liked these windows, and I think they fit the style of the house. Is my only concern on that point. And so it would be nice to go to some of these other issues. Maybe you talked about the railing, and I can't remember, but I do think I add railing to my floor plan. And maybe it didn't get on this one. We turned in some different iterations, but I do know on the front that we need to put railing on those stairs. The 3D rendering that you're looking at, we actually pulled back 2 more steps and did more with the slope so that you have more of a path going up to 5 steps instead of 7. And then I think I can add the dimension to that landing. It is 4 by 6. I think that's all we were allotted. I think that was most of the issues that you had listed. The lights. The lights.
The pretty fast, easy ones to address. I guess I think that Chris is trying to ask the committee.
Well, I did want to mention one last thing. Those are dark skylights that we picked out, so they should comply with the regulation.
Okay, well, I think that as long as we could confirm that they're dark sky compliant, that's fine. And personally, I feel like I could be flexible on the windows. I think that the issue of the transitions of the outside corners, for me, it's something that we would either have to walk through and keep doing this a bit in order to get to a place where we could feel confident approving this, or that we could leave it much more in Sue's hand if the applicant wants to request a continuance, and we don't want to be overly prescriptive. But I know that every applicant would like to be approved the first time. So I think, to my mind, that's kind of the question, is whether we continue.
I think that this is a difficult massing to try to hash out during the meeting.
Well,
And
actually, I'm okay walking around. I think you almost have it on the siding. And I'm happy. I'd rather do that with you right now than the second.
Well, I think we're kind of, I don't mean to be rude in how I say this, but I think it's the committee that's trying to decide this right now. Because I know that each applicant is happy to take as much time as it takes to hash it out during the meeting. But in fairness to all the other applicants that are following, and, you know, and us trying to make sure that, you know, you take the time for your project to be as successful as possible. Like, I don't want to necessarily rush this either. And I do think that we've basically worked through just the front, and there's 3 other elevations that we haven't been able to address yet. And I'm okay with being flexible on the windows also. I think that there's, you know, like whether this transom gets divided up, those are things that I would encourage you to maybe look at. But I'm kind of leaning towards Chris's direction, that I think that this might be something that requires a little bit more time and diagrammatic studies behind the scenes for you, Sue, rather than us trying to problem solve it in this meeting.
Well, could you give me a list of your concerns? So it's really clear what you feel like I need to correct.
I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to go much further than saying that the allocation of the materials in a consistent manner and transitions at corners, for you to be able to kind of look at it all together cohesively rather than each elevation separately.
Yeah, I mean, Chris always writes a very thorough letter, and I think we'll provide you as much as we can. And I think you're hearing from us pretty clearly that the transition of one material to another at an outside corner feels problematic. And I just want to sort of reiterate that I think there is a lot which is very successful about this design, and I think it's close, but yeah, we are spending a lot of time getting a little bit more into the weeds than we probably should right now.
All right, I'm just going to throw a complete monkey wrench into everything. All right, because when I looked at this plan set originally, in my mind, I thought, okay, you know, this is a good design. We're probably going to approve it at this meeting because, you know, there's a couple things like the, you know, the darkness of the paint color, which we've already discussed, and both of the architects liked it. So that's no longer an issue for me. And, you know, maybe there's some inconsistencies with the windows or the siding, but I guess in hearing everything and in looking at this design, I guess I want to ask the architects, is this really something that that you feel strongly about, that there's that much that you want to have the applicant address? I understand everything that you've said, and I'm not discounting that or disagreeing with it, but I'm thinking of a bigger picture of, you know, this is a pretty solid design. Thinking of projects that we've had on continuance before that I felt have had more substantive concerns, without detailing each window and each material transition. In your minds, a general big picture question, do you feel that we could approve this project today with some, you know, specific but not highly detailed recommendations and conditions? And I need to know that question from us, the committee, to decide which way we're going to go today. Of, you know, general, we're going to give you some general things and it's probably going to be a continuance, or let's roll up our sleeves and get these couple of windows and these couple of transitions knocked out so that we can take a vote. I mean, I just high level answer on that from the committee.
High level, if this was my project, I would not want to have to rush these decisions. And I think that it's going to take us at least an hour to get through the other elevations.
Okay. Rebecca?
Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate that I am prepared to let the window issues stand as they are. I think Sue has made a strong case for the integrity of her design in that regard. But I do think it's going to take a while to give the attention that it deserves to the material transitions, because if we just make it a condition that's very loose, I don't know, we don't get to see it again.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable conditioning it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from the committee is that it's not that you don't like the design, but there's some things that you want to have addressed on this that we are going to, because we don't want to take the time today, and I don't think we should, we're not in the business of designing for people and having these really specific, like do this and this and this. So in that sense, we are giving a higher level direction. And because the higher level direction is pretty impactful, your feeling is that to best serve the applicant on this as well as the community, it would be a good idea for the applicant to choose continuance and for us to then provide some high level instruction and let the applicant take that instruction back and work out the details themselves.
Yes.
Can I ask one question?
One sec. Rebecca, what's your thought?
Yes, I agree. And I would go so far as to say that I think that it could come back and on a second review, probably be a quick and easy one.
Sue?
So what I'm hearing is you're mainly concerned about transitions in the corners, and it sounded like you wanted one material maybe on the upper level and another material on the lower, and not to have it kind of going back and forth. So what I'm thinking is almost what I would do to comply with that thought is to put stucco all the way around the bottom and the siding all the way around the top, which would require some type of, some of them have roofs, some would need a belly board. Is that kind of where you're headed in your thoughts?
I think you're going in the right direction with your understanding. And I think if there's a simplest way for me to try to explain what we're looking for is, I think that you've done a really great job with breaking up the massing with the different material choices, and you've associated a color with each material, which is good because that gives it that consistency. But the way that it's being applied, the placement of those materials, it feels a little haphazard. It's not being placed in a consistent way. So a good example of that, that's obviously a different style of architecture, is, if you get like a craftsman home that